Chapter 752. Li Zongjiu picked up the bounty poster. When he saw that the price was only 10 million gold coins, Li Zongjiu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Who was the person who put up the bounty poster? With such a small amount of money, they wanted Li Zongjiu's head. This was too cheap. Thinking of this, Li Zongjiu was extremely impressed by these people. However, Li Zongjiu was still not full. He continued to eat and drink in the midst of the corpses. The corpses around him did not affect Li Zongjiu's appetite at all. You should at least give me the room key before you act. Li Zongjiu was dissatisfied. He even wanted to rummage through the cabinets to find the key. Only then did he find the key. He casually opened a door and walked in. Night fell. Tian Fei had not returned yet. However, a visitor arrived at Li Zongjiu's place first. Under the illumination of the candlelight on the table, a shadow could be seen gradually enlarging. Li Zongjiu immediately looked over. There was a person crawling by the window. It looked like a beast. The expression on his face was extremely ferocious. He stared at Li Zongjiu with a murderous gaze. After meeting Li Zongjiu's gaze, the figure instantly flew out of the window. Bang! Li Zongjiu threw a punch. The opponent's reaction was very fast. In an instant, he flew back. Boom! Li Zongjiu looked at the pitch-black figure in surprise. He was wearing only a pair of large underpants. This thing was too arrogant. Its speed was so fast that it could be so arrogant in front of Li Zongjiu. What a weirdo. That thing blew out the candle from a few meters away. The entire room seemed to be plunged into darkness. In this silent and dark environment, Li Zongjiu felt that the opponent's strength was gradually increasing. Is this the legendary knight attribute? Li Zongjiu was surprised. When the surrounding light seemed to be swallowed by this thing, the room was already pitch black. Nothing could be seen clearly. At this moment, in the darkness, a swift and violent force rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu sat in the same place. When the opponent was about to attack, Li Zongjiu also punched the opponent's teeth. Originally, this bite should have broken Li Zongjiu's neck. However, this punch shattered the opponent's teeth. This showed how hard Li Zongjiu's fist was. Roar! That thing also felt the pain and quickly retreated. Li Zongjiu stood up. He did not mind continuing to play with these things. Boom! He instantly chased after it and sent it flying with a punch. Li Zongjiu fell directly from the guest room on the second floor to the hall. When Li Zongjiu smashed the strange thing on the floor with his fist, he suddenly raised his head, only to find that the inn was already surrounded by these strange things. There were at least 20 of them. So many. These were the species that Dong Xuanzhou reared, the night demons. It was an extremely vicious training method. It allowed the night demons to live in the darkness and taught them how to fight in the darkness. Over time, they became assassins in the darkness and could even absorb the surrounding light. He Xuanzhou had spent a lot of money just to nurture this batch of night demons. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, he would never use this terrifying army of night demons. Roar! The surrounding night demons also rushed towards Li Zongjiu. You're courting death. At first, Li Zongjiu was only interested in these things. However, his interest was gone now. He immediately punched the night devils that were pouncing on him and sent them flying. Bang! 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 On a roof not far away, a black figure looked at the inn in front of him. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised as he heard the violent commotion. The night devil troop that the old thing raised is really awesome. That person was a deacon of the Qingyuan villa. Normally, he would be by Dong Xuanzhou's side. Although it was said that he was cooperating with Dong Xuanzhou, in truth, he was only there to supervise Dong Xuanzhou and ensure that he was working for the Qingyuan villa. Therefore, the deacon of Qingyuan Manor was very satisfied with the attack of the night demons. After taking down Li Zongjiu, he would be able to consolidate his position in Qing Yuan Manor. Perhaps, this contribution would allow him to advance further. Once these night demons set their sights on a target, they would never change. They would not rest until one of them was dead. After killing this kid, I'll use his head to claim the reward. In the future, there will definitely be a seat for me in Qing Yuan Manor as an elder. The corners of the old man's mouth twitched. The benefits of being a deacon were too little. In fact, he was already very dissatisfied. As time passed, people would become greedier. Just as the old man was standing on the roof. Suddenly, he felt a chilly wind behind him. This immediately alerted the old man. Dark Yuan Pierce. A soft shout rang in the old man's ears. Instantly, he was awakened. When the old man subconsciously turned around, he saw a figure approaching him. Then, he felt as if his neck had been cut off at this moment. Fuck. What kind of move is this? When the dagger came from the dark, the assassin and the dagger instantly disappeared into the night sky. Just like that, they disappeared without a trace. I can't speak. My strength. The old man's strength was not weak. No matter what, he was still a peak sky origin expert. How could he be so easily ambushed? However, after being hit by the dagger, the old man stood on the spot as though nothing had happened. However, all of his strength was rapidly being devoured by an unknown force. After a few seconds, the old man's body fell to the ground with a thud. Immediately, there was a commotion in the surroundings. It was the people the old man had arranged nearby. Because he had predicted that someone might come to ambush him tonight, he had arranged people around to wait for the assassin to appear and take him down. However, no one expected the assassin to be so fast when he attacked. "Sir, what happened to you?" The people who gathered around saw that the old man had already stopped breathing. It was obvious that he had allowed someone to kill the old man in front of so many people. It seemed that the assassin's methods were quite brilliant. "Sir, there was an assassin. Sir, there was an assassin." Immediately, these people began to spread the news to each other. Looking at these people, they actually had a very excited look on their faces. Search the surroundings immediately and find the assassin. Immediately, the captain of the guards began to give orders. The methods of this mysterious assassin were indeed extraordinary. He had actually killed the old man in front of so many people. Now that they had searched, they couldn't find any traces at all. The most important thing was that these people didn't dare to act alone. They could even assassinate the deacon. If they could assassinate them now, wouldn't it be as easy as flipping their hands? It would be more than enough. The crowd dispersed symbolically. In the darkness, a figure was quietly retreating. However, his gaze was fixed on the inn. The movements in the inn seemed to have stopped at this moment. Seeing this scene appear. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking sword aura exploded in the Qingshan city governor's mansion. Then, almost half of the mansion was destroyed. It was extremely tragic. The city governor has been taken away. Everyone, go after him. Chapter 753. Li Zongjiu killed the night demons with a flurry of punches. All of them fell to the ground, unable to move. This allowed Li Zongjiu to move his body as well. It took him a lot of effort to get rid of these people. His fists were aching from the beating. What were these guys' bodies made of? They were extremely hard. They clearly looked like humans, but their actions made them seem like wild beasts. Li Zongjiu was shocked. If we're talking about the methods of this Qingyuan villa, then it's really abnormal. Li Zongjiu shook his head and said. Someone knocked on the door of the inn. Come in. Tian Fei opened the door with a palm while carrying a person in his hand. This person was obviously very unconvinced. He kept struggling and wanted to escape. However, when this person was carried into the inn and saw the corpses on the ground, his body suddenly stiffened on the spot. He seemed to be frightened by the scene in front of him. He could not believe his eyes. "This, young lord, I have brought him here." As he spoke, Tian Fei tossed the East Search boat to the ground and it landed on a night demon. Li Zongjiu wiped his hands with a white cloth and looked at Dong Xuanzhou indifferently. "You brought all these things, right?" He moved a chair over and sat down. Then, he looked at Dong Xuanzhou and said slowly. At this moment, Dong Xuanzhou's face was filled with shock as he looked at Li Zongjiu. How did this young man deal with those terrifying night devils? It should be known that even a Yuan monarch powerhouse could be killed by the attacks of these night demons. This was because these night demons' methods of attack were too perverted. They were unexpectedly ruthless. And now, these assassins had all been killed. Dong Xuanzhou could not react in time. That was the last thing he could rely on. However, Dong Xuanzhou could not admit that these night demons were brought here by him. Otherwise, these people would not let him go. "I don't know what you're talking about. Kidnapping a city lord, Li Zongjiu, do you know how serious of a crime you've committed?" Dong Xuanzhou said coldly. He wanted to use this method to intimidate Li Zongjiu. "Kneel properly." Tian Fei kicked East Xuanzhou's leg. He kicked Dong Xuanzhou to the ground, causing him to kneel. "Who is it?" Tian Fei seemed to have sensed the movement in the surroundings. He raised his hand and a sword energy swept towards the roof. Boom! With a loud explosion, a figure fell from the sky. "You're courting death." Tian Fei sensed that the person in front of him was actually rushing towards the young master. Trying to assassinate Li Zongjiu in front of Tian Fei was not giving him any face at all. He simply did not put Tian Fei in his eyes. However, when Tian Fei's figure flew out, he was shocked to find that the person in front of him was just a shadow. His palm missed. The assassin's figure flickered and appeared near Li Zongjiu. "Young master, be careful." Tian Fei shouted in a low voice, but he also sent a palm strike towards the assassin. The power of the palm strike from a distance had already demonstrated the power of a Yuan King elite. However, his palm strike still missed. What? Even though they were in such a small space, the assassin's figure was unpredictable. It was really surprising. Even an elite like Tian Fei could not capture the assassin's figure. Swoosh! A dark light pierced towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu, who was sitting upright, also smiled. "San Tong, you've grown up." San Tong greets the young master. The mysterious black figure finally revealed itself. By the time she appeared in front of Li Zongjiu, San Tong had already grown up a little from the little girl back then. The determined aura on her face was even stronger than before, and the murderous aura on her body had also been retracted quite well. What San Tong had just used was the dark yuan spike that Li Zongjiu had taught her. She was indeed a genius at learning the dark yuan spike. In just a short year, she had already cultivated the dark yuan spike to a state where she could use it freely. How could Li Zongjiu not be surprised? "Young master." Tian Fei had already descended from the roof. He was a little surprised when he saw the scene before him. He had not expected that the mysterious assassin would actually be one of Li Zongjiu's men. "How is this possible? You are clearly only a Yuan Zong." Tian Fei looked at San Tong in astonishment. He could sense that San Tong was only a grade 7 Yuan Zong, but he could not even deal with a grade 5 Yuan King. In the previous few exchanges, all of them had failed. If Li Zongjiu was not strong enough, San Tong would have already taken his head. This was why Tian Fei was surprised by San Tong's methods. "Let's get to know each other. This is San Tong, and this is Tian Fei." San Tong looked at Tian Fei and nodded faintly. Then, San Tong stood behind Li Zongjiu. "Young master, this person is a lackey of Qingyuan Manor. Before you came, he had already issued a bounty," San Tong said in a low voice. When Dong Xuanzhou saw San Tong in front of him, he finally came to his senses. You are the assassin. Dong Xuanzhou was even more shocked when he saw San Tong's young and thin figure. More importantly, San Tong was actually a woman. He had not expected that San Tong would actually be one of Li Zongjiu's men. It seemed like Li Zongjiu had already made some arrangements. Assassin? You killed people here. Li Zongjiu stared at San Tong. San Tong was extraordinarily bold. Qingyuan Manor's headquarters was not far away, yet he had dared to kill people here without any scruples. He had quite the character. San Tong knew that young master would come here, so he waited in the city. Fortunately, he killed some people first. When he had first escaped from the blood strike guards, San Tong had suffered quite a bit. Now that he had the ability, killing these people was like collecting some interest. Well done. Li Zongjiu nodded. Since you're also a member of the Qingyuan villa, then you should know my temper. How about this, I'll give you a way out. If you hang yourself at the city gate for 7 days, then I'll spare your life. Li Zongjiu looked at Dong Xuanzhou as he spoke slowly. When Dong Xuanzhou heard Li Zongjiu's words, he was already under a lot of pressure. When he heard the contents, he was naturally incomparably ashamed and angry. If Dong Xuanzhou had been young, it wouldn't have been a big deal for him to accept such a condition. After all, a great man knew when to yield and when not to yield. However, Dong Xuanzhou had been in a high position for a long time now. He still cared about his reputation. How dare someone use such a method to humiliate him? In the face of such humiliation, Dong Xuanzhou would rather die than be humiliated in such a way. It seems like you've chosen to die. Then let's do it. Dong Xuanzhou was about to shout out righteously that he would rather die than be humiliated. However, who would have thought that Li Zongjiu would directly say it out loud? He had sentenced him to death. Dong Xuanzhou was so frightened that he shuddered. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Dong Xuanzhou hurriedly said. Since Li Zongjiu had already come knocking on his door, there was no way he would leave so easily. Moreover, he wouldn't care about killing a castellan. These things were extremely easy for him. Therefore, Li Zongjiu had no qualms about killing him. I have a very important piece of information. It can help you deal with Qingyuan Manor. Dong Xuanzhou quickly said. San Tong had already made his move and slashed Dong Xuanzhou's neck with his knife. Ugh! Ugh! Dong Xuanzhou clutched his neck and looked at San Tong in disbelief. He didn't understand why this guy wanted to kill him. Didn't I say that I have an important piece of information to tell you? Why are you so ruthless to kill him? Plop! San Tong kept his dagger. Li Zongjiu also widened his eyes and looked at San Tong. No, you. Why did you kill him so quickly? Didn't he say that he had a secret to tell you? Chapter 754. Although it was a rather cruel method. You could have just acted a little later. Even Tian Fei did not expect San Tong to be even more decisive than Li Zongjiu when he made his move. No wonder they were master and servant. I already know the secret he mentioned, San Tong said calmly. In terms of temperament, he was somewhat similar to Li Zongjiu. During this period of time, in addition to finding a few people from Qingyuan Manor to kill, San Tong also found some information about Qingyuan Manor. Among the information, there was something very important. It was the important information that Dong Xuanzhou had mentioned. Oh, you've done well. Li Zongjiu nodded. What information? Li Zongjiu asked immediately. San Tong quickly took off Dong Xuanzhou's storage ring and handed it to Li Zongjiu. There's a dragon vein under Qingyuan Villa. The location of the dragon vein is on the map here. I heard that Qingyuan Villa ordered the 3 castellans to fill the dragon vein with a large amount of gold, silver, and jewels to increase the golden dragon qi. San Tong said. Bullshit, what dragon vein? This is all a lie to you kids. This so-called dragon vein must be a trap. Li Zongjiu said straightforwardly. San Tong wasn't convinced, but even if this place wasn't a trap, it was still a dangerous place for them. It was bound to be full of danger. Let's go. Since the dragon vein has been marked, we should give them a surprise. Li Zongjiu said. He opened the map and glanced at it. The location marked on the map was not far from here, but it was hidden and the entrance was difficult to find. The three of them pushed open the door of the inn. They were about to leave when they saw an exquisite key in Dong Xuanzhou's storage ring. Which ordinary person would place such an exquisitely crafted key in their storage ring? There must be some strange reason behind it. If I remember correctly, this key seems to be the key to a secret chamber in his room. San Tong looked at the key and said. After all, they had seen these things before. During this period, San Tong had been lurking in the city and spying on them for a long time. Let's go. At this moment, on the street, there were patrolling soldiers everywhere, because their city lord had just been caught by someone swaggering in. How dare they openly murder their city lord? However, the other party was too fast. They disappeared into the night sky in the blink of an eye. The soldiers were like headless flies. Just as the city was on lockdown, Li Zongjiu and the other two rushed into the Castellan mansion. The city lord's mansion was currently the most defenseless place. After rushing in, many servants saw Li Zongjiu and the others. All of them were knocked unconscious by Tian Fei. This was because these commoners were relatively normal. Being a servant here was something that they couldn't do. Therefore, they did not kill them directly. After arriving at Dong Xuanzhou's room, the three of them searched the room and finally found the entrance to the secret chamber under the bed. There really is a secret chamber here. Li Zongjiu immediately inserted the key into the lock. With a gentle turn, the door to the cellar was opened. I'll go first. San Tong took the lead, but how could Tian Fei let a girl walk in front of him? He immediately jumped and entered the cellar before San Tong. The surrounding cold air made people shudder. The surrounding walls seemed to have been specially modified. The few of them walked down the stairs to the bottom, only to find that there was a stone door here. This must be a secret vault that guy opened. San Tong said. But this stone door needs a mechanism to open. San Tong looked around, trying to find the hidden mechanism. Li Zongjiu threw a punch as soon as he said that. Boom! The stone door in front of them was immediately smashed into a big hole. Smoke and dust filled the air, and the ground shook. It was as if the entire cellar was about to collapse. Isn't it open now? Li Zongjiu saw that the hole wasn't big enough, so he added another kick and kicked the gravel away. He lifted his foot and stepped out. San Tong rolled his eyes at Li Zongjiu's behavior. This guy's behavior was too violent. Moreover, he could have found the mechanism after a while. Tian Fei looked at this and did not say anything. After all, straightforwardness was Li Zongjiu's style. He was never afraid of offending people or committing crimes. He was just that straightforward. Who knows how much wealth this guy has plundered from the people all these years? When Li Zongjiu and the other two walked in, they immediately knew how much Dong Xuanzhou deserved to die. He had only been a governor for a few years, but the gold and jewels in this cellar were already as tall as a small mountain. If this wealth was taken out, it would be equivalent to the entire wealth of a small family. At least, even if the Li family sold all their assets, they would not be able to reach half of this wealth. Even Tian Fei, who had seen a lot, was stunned by the wealth. In fact, these things did not belong to Dong Xuanzhou. It was related to what the dragon vein had said before. These gold, silver, and jewelry were all transported from all over the place. For example, the Black Eagle flag specialized in plundering wealth and then transported it here. Finally, it was directly sent to the dragon vein. The castellan mansions of the 3 surrounding cities had also become temporary storage places. Let's keep it first. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and waved it. His mental strength wrapped around the mountain of gold in front of him and kept it all into the Nanguo ring. This amount is at least equivalent to the entire wealth of the Zheng family. Li Zongjiu was surprised. After all, even Li Zongjiu had never seen so many treasures. He was slightly surprised at this moment. This gold coin is your reward. With a flick of his finger, Li Zongjiu sent a gold coin towards the 3 coppers. San Tong stretched out his hand and caught the gold coin. How old was Li Zongjiu? Why would he still reward such a boring thing? However, San Tong still accepted Li Zongjiu's reward. He could not help but feel happy. In this case, the other 2 cities will also transport these jewels to the Dragon Vein. Li Zongjiu rolled his eyes. It did not make sense for him to watch the money slip away under his nose. The reason why they did not put these things into the storage rings was mainly because they had limited space. One of the main reasons for this was that most storage rings had limited space. A storage ring with a large storage space was extremely expensive and rare. Moreover, it was not safe to put them in storage rings. If it was a storage ring with a lower cost, it might even be damaged directly. That meant that one's mental strength would no longer be able to open the storage ring, and the things stored inside would never be recovered. Moreover, the more things one put in, the more unstable the storage space would be. Therefore, it was safer to store a large amount of gold and silver wares than to put them in storage rings. Li Zongjiu's Nanguo ring had a large storage space, so he did not need to worry about these things at all. In the other 2 cities, they were Qingzhou City and Qingshui City. The geographical locations of these 3 cities were similar. Basically, these 3 cities were in a state of peaceful sharing. After all, the area of Qingyuan Mountain was extremely large. They were scattered in all directions, directly blocking off the 3 cities. After Li Zongjiu and the other 2 ransacked Qingshan City, they quickly chased in the direction of Qingzhou City. At this moment, Qingzhou City was still heavily guarded. In addition, there was a letter from a carrier pigeon saying that the city lord of Qingshan City had been captured. This made the city lord mansion of Qingzhou City nervous. After all, it was better to keep in touch with each other between the 3 cities. The city lord of Qingzhou City was a fat man who was timid but extremely cautious. Immediately, the fat man gave the order to heavily guard the city lord mansion. They must not let a fly fly in. Therefore, there was no need for him to sacrifice his life for these things. This fatty was definitely a judge of the situation. Faced with Li Zongjiu and the others' coercion, the fatty didn't hesitate at all. He immediately led Li Zongjiu and the others to the treasury below his room. We don't know how to open this stone door. Only the people in the Qingyuan villa know. The fatty looked like he was in a difficult position. He expressed that he was very cooperative and asked them not to kill him. This time, it was not Li Zongjiu's turn to make a move. Tian Fei stepped forward and threw a punch that contained the power of a Yuan monarch, smashing the wall into pieces. When the 3 of them walked in, they were shocked to find that the space of this treasury was actually twice as big as the previous one. Moreover, it was filled to the brim. You've done well. Li Zongjiu patted the fatty's shoulder and said. He had actually plundered so much money. Even the fatty seemed to feel as if he had been caught red-handed. He could even laugh awkwardly a few times. Hee hee. You're too kind. Li Zongjiu didn't stand on ceremony and took all these things. Since you're so cooperative, I'll spare your life first. Are the 3 of you going to Qingshui City? Immediately, the fatty asked cautiously. The closest place to set off from Qingshan City was Qingzhou City. Based on the time the fatty had just received the information, Li Zongjiu and the others must have come directly to Qingzhou City. Yes. If you're going to Qingshui City, you'll have to speed up because they're going to send these things to the Dragon Vein tonight to carry out the fate suppression technique. The fatty said. Li Zongjiu frowned as he looked at the fat city lord in front of him. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Do you know who I am? The fatty paused for a moment, then looked up at Li Zongjiu and said slowly. Li Zongjiu of Luoxia City. Who doesn't know your name now? Li Zongjiu laughed heartily when he heard that. He then turned around and left with the other two. The three of them disappeared from Qingzhou City. Obviously, the fatty knew Li Zongjiu's identity and had already done some investigation. Naturally, he knew that Li Zongjiu would never let these people go. Therefore, either Li Zongjiu died and got the things back, or Qingyuan Villa was destroyed. The fat city lord had made such a decision because he believed that Li Zongjiu would be able to destroy the Qingyuan mountain villa. When the fat city lord returned to the ground, he was shocked. The manager who had fainted also woke up. He hurriedly covered his head and shouted to the outside. Guards, there's an assassin. There's an assassin. With a command, a large group of armored soldiers rushed in from outside the house. However, when the mayor appeared, he waved his hand. Disperse, disperse. You good-for-nothings. If I waited for you to come, I would have been skinned alive. The mayor roared. The manager didn't know what was going on. Could it be that the invaders had been defeated by the mayor? If that was the case, then the city lord was simply too ferocious. Mayor, is it all settled? After the confused soldiers retreated, the manager went up to the fatty and asked in a low voice. He wanted to take credit in front of the mayor. After all, he was injured just now. Fuck you. Settled your sister. Get out of here. The fat city lord was just short of grabbing his shoe and smashing this fellow's head, causing his head to explode. He had lost a lot of money tonight. This was simply an inestimable number. Most importantly, he was here today. If Qingyuan Villa were to investigate this matter, he might not have a good time. His end would be very tragic. Li Zongjiu, oh Li Zongjiu, I'm betting my life on you. You must hold on for me. As long as Li Zongjiu was still jumping around, the gold, silver, and jewels that were used to suppress the dragon vein's luck would not focus on him. Therefore, he had to be on guard. He could only hope that Li Zongjiu would kill a few more people in the Qingyuan Villa. It would be best if he destroyed the dragon's vein directly. That way, the money would be useless to the Qingyuan Villa, and his situation would be even safer. Chapter 756. Qingshui City. When Li Zongjiu and the others arrived at the city lord's mansion, they found that the city lord's mansion was slightly guarded. However, from the looks of these people, they were just putting on a show. They immediately understood that it was as the fat man had said. These people had already started to deliver the goods to the dragon vein to hand them over. Chase. The three of them once again rushed to the boundary shown on the map. However, in this dense forest, one's line of sight was quite blocked. There are will marks here. These broken branches are also fresh. They just passed by not long ago. Tian Fei's figure landed on the side, observed the surrounding traces, and immediately said. Nonsense, isn't that their carriage in front? San Tong pointed at a place not far away. Tian Fei pretended to be calm and didn't look embarrassed at all. San Tong's attitude towards him wasn't very good. After all, Li Zongjiu's personal bodyguard was only San Tong, Li Zongjiu's only bodyguard before this. If I'm not wrong, this should be a trap. Li Zongjiu said seriously. When the three of them rushed to the carriage, they found that all the carriages were filled with stones. Surround them. A roar came from the depths of the forest. Then, a large number of people rushed out from the ground and treetops, directly surrounding Li Zongjiu and the other two. A man riding a black wolf walked out of the forest, carrying a mace on his shoulder. He stared at the three people in front of him, as if the three people in front of him had already become turtles in a jar. Li Zongjiu, you have big guts. How dare you have ideas about my Qingshui city? Today, your head will be rolling on the ground. The man on the wolf's back laughed loudly, as if he was sure that Li Zongjiu and the other two would be defeated. The three people in front of him looked very thin and weak, and even looked like little sheep surrounded by a pack of wolves. Facing such a situation, the man naturally felt a sense of accomplishment. Killing these little lambs would be truly satisfying. Killing people was like slaughtering sheep. If the item is not here, then it has probably been sent to the dragon vein. Li Zongjiu nodded. These people didn't look like they had so much gold, silver, and jewelry, so there was no need for them to stay. These people are of no value. Get rid of them all. Li Zongjiu said calmly. When the leader on the black wolf heard Li Zongjiu's words, he laughed even louder. Ha, brat, you're really arrogant. I want to see what you're going to use to kill me. Ugh. Before it could finish speaking, a figure appeared behind the black wolf. Then, the man could no longer speak and hurriedly covered his throat with his hand. Blood continued to flow out from the gaps between his fingers. Woo woo, plop. Those who were pierced by the dark yuan spike would suffocate to death. It was as if they had died in the endless darkness. Under the endless pressure, it was an extremely uncomfortable way to die. San Tong made his move, and Tian Fei also made his move. Sword chi rippled in the air. It also directly sent the people around him flying. Bang bang bang. When these people fell to the ground, they found that the armor on their chests was broken. The extremely terrifying sword chi had already cut their bodies. It was just that they didn't realize it. The people around them were not even enough to fill the gaps between Li Zongjiu's teeth. Hurry up. Li Zongjiu called out and took the lead to rush out. How could he delay the matter of collecting wealth? At this moment, in a valley under Mount Qingyuan, there was an extremely hidden entrance. This time, a gloomy aura was emitted from the surroundings. From time to time, some black shadows could be seen wandering in the forest. There were also countless sharp gazes staring at the entrance from some of the hidden corners. This was one of the forbidden areas of Mount Qingyuan. Without permission, no one was allowed to enter. As the guards, they naturally had to be very careful. If there was any mishap, it would all be on their heads. Who is it? A group of people wearing black rainforest clothes and holding swords immediately became alert when they saw a trace of movement in front. Behind them, someone immediately walked forward to investigate. It's me. A man in a long brocade robe walked out with a few guards in tight robes. City Lord Meng. The guards immediately saluted the newcomer and said, the situation in Qingshui City has changed. We'll send the goods over first and inform Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni. City Lord Meng said. If Li Zongjiu still remembered, he should be able to recall. He could even see that the city Lord Meng in front of him was Meng Yu, who was killed by Li Zongjiu outside Sacred Flame Royal City. They were very similar. The city Lord Meng in front of him was Meng Yu's biological father. At the same time, he was the biological brother of King Qing Yuan's wife. This relationship was a little complicated, but to sum it up, it was the kind that had a deep hatred for Li Zongjiu. Meng Yu's father, Meng Yi. Through this special relationship, Meng Yi became the city lord of Qingshui City. As the city lord of a second-class city, his status was not low at all. Moreover, he had a relationship with King Qing Yuan. Who would have thought that even with such a strong background, his son was still tragically killed by someone? The murderer was still not found. However, through some recent investigations, they had locked onto a very suspicious person. That person was Li Zongjiu. Meng Yi had wanted to take revenge for a long time. Now that he heard that Li Zongjiu had come to find him, his heart was itching. He could not wait to gather his men and chop Li Zongjiu into pieces. Meng Yi had no chance of winning in a one-on-one fight. He could only lure Li Zongjiu here and let the 4 Shakyamuni, who were guarding the dragon vein, take action. They would definitely be able to kill Li Zongjiu. Thief Li Zongjiu, you killed my son. I will definitely skin you and pull out your tendons as a sacrifice to my son's soul in heaven. Meng Yi had already made a plan in his mind. Even the trap he had set up along the way was just to infuriate Li Zongjiu. At the same time, it was also used to confuse Li Zongjiu and make Li Zongjiu think that the dragon vein possessed such power that it could be easily defeated. This was the best way to go about it. Just you wait. This kid has swept through 2 cities in a row. He must be incomparably proud. I'll be waiting to harvest your head. Meng Yi's eyes were filled with the flames of vengeance. Shortly after, Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni appeared. As the guardian of the dragon vein, Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni's strength had already reached the peak of the Yuan monarch realm. Furthermore, he had already set up a rather tight array formation around the dragon vein. If it was activated directly, even an Yuan monarch powerhouse would not be able to walk out. This Ying Long happened to be Meng Yi's good brother. Old Meng, it's rare that you are personally escorting the goods. Let's go in and have a drink. Eagle Dragon pulled Meng Yi in. As for the amount of gold and jewels that had been delivered, there would naturally be someone who would count them. Given the methods of Qingyuan Mountain Manor, it was likely that not many people would dare to cause trouble. Old Ying, this is our chance to perform a meritorious deed. I am certain that Li Zongjiu will definitely come to our place. Meng Yi coldly said. It was as if he could already see Li Zongjiu falling in front of him. Chapter 757. Don't worry, old Meng. The 4 of us have set up the 4 symbols fatal formation here. As long as that brat gets close to here, I'll skin him alive. Ying Long sneered. It was true that the ignorant were fearless. He thought that killing a few of Qingyuan Manor's people outside was enough to make Qingyuan Manor their enemy. Li Zongjiu was really overestimating himself. When this kid really stepped into their array formation, they would be able to activate the array formation and let Li Zongjiu have a taste of what a mother's embrace was like. Meng Yi finally felt relieved after listening to Ying Long's words. It was likely that no one in Qingyuan Manor knew about Bai Shiyan's death that day. After all, the people on that day were basically all dead. Not even one person ran back to report the news. In addition, Bai Shiyan himself was an primitive emperor expert. The commotion caused by him was huge. He had been wandering outside all year round. Who would have thought that Bai Shiyan would be killed by someone? To be honest, it would be difficult for anyone to know that Bai Shiyan was dead as long as no one came looking for him. Therefore, even the person in charge of collecting information did not know that Bai Shiyan was dead. When Li Zongjiu returned to Cerulean Wave Giant City after killing Bai Shiyan, he did not mention it to anyone. Therefore, the people in Cerulean Wave Giant City did not know that Bai Shiyan was dead. They did not even know who Bai Shiyan was. The only one who knew was Zhang Biyao. However, Zhang Biyao was also on her way back to Nanjiang. She did not pay much attention to Bai Shiyan's matter. She only cared about her own matters in Nanjiang. Meng Yi and Meng Yi were also full of confidence. They were waiting for Li Zongjiu and the other 2 to walk into the trap. Who is it? Ying Long Shakyamuni and Meng Yi were drinking wine in the cave. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from outside. It was followed by a series of screams and the sound of someone falling to the ground. Oh no! Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni and Meng Yi were shocked. They looked outside the cave and saw Li Zongjiu and the other 2 swagger in without even needing to go out. This is the dragon vein of the Qingyuan Villa, right? You people are really fierce. You want to kill me without even asking. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but complain. These people were simply too ruthless. They were even more ruthless than Li Zongjiu. In any case, Li Zongjiu would at least ask a few more questions to confirm a little bit. However, these people didn't even ask and directly attacked with a knife. Therefore, Li Zongjiu and the other two were very straightforward. In the blink of an eye, they killed all these people. You must be Li Zongjiu. Ying Long couldn't help but exchange a glance with Meng Yi when he saw that the three people who walked in were all young men. This scene was simply too hilarious. They had never expected to encounter such a situation after roaming the underworld for such a long time. For Ying Long and the rest, this scene was extremely hilarious. At the very least, the people who walked out were some fierce characters. It's me, Li Zongjiu said. San Tong's gaze became extremely solemn. After so many years of battle experience, San Tong could clearly feel the pressure from the two people in front of him. These people's strength was not simple. Therefore, San Tong's body was always tense. If necessary, it would not be a problem to block a knife for Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu, since you and I have met today, why don't you tell me, did you kill my son? Meng Yi stood up directly. He glared at Li Zongjiu. He could not wait to fight with Li Zongjiu and choke Li Zongjiu to death on the spot. I have killed many sons. I don't know which one you are talking about. Li Zongjiu asked curiously as he looked at Meng Yi. He had killed quite a number of people in the Qingyuan mountain villa. Li Zongjiu couldn't possibly remember every single one of them and help them find their fathers. Therefore, Li Zongjiu asked. My son. Meng Yu. A year ago, he went to participate in an alchemy exchange and never came back. Meng Yi said coldly. Meng Yi's eyes were red. It was as if Meng Yu's life was not worth mentioning in Li Zongjiu's eyes. Oh, you mean that idiot? I killed him. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Li Zongjiu patted his head. This was something that happened a long time ago, so it wasn't easy for Li Zongjiu to recall it. If it wasn't for Meng Yi's reminder, Li Zongjiu might have forgotten about it. Hearing Li Zongjiu admit it, Meng Yi's eyes almost turned into a knife. His son's talent was extraordinary. At such a young age, he had already become a fifth-grade alchemist. If he continued to develop, it was not impossible for him to become a sixth-grade alchemist at such a young age. However, Meng Yu, who was supposed to have a glorious life, was killed by Li Zongjiu just like that. It was all because of Li Zongjiu's jealousy. Li Zongjiu's jealousy of Meng Yu's powerful talent led to Li Zongjiu's killing intent. Old Meng, no need to say more. Since this guy has admitted it, let's kill him first. Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni was very confident. He directly stood up and said. When Tian Fei saw Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni take action, he instantly rushed out. He wanted to stop Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni's action. However, he saw Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni's eyes were filled with anger. Then, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. The surrounding air was like a cage. In an instant, Tian Fei was trapped inside. Boom! Tian Fei was directly sucked into the large array. His figure disappeared on the spot. You're the next one. Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni waved his big hand. A gust of wind seemed to blow and instantly enveloped Li Zongjiu and Santong's figures. The two were directly sucked into the array. Li Zongjiu did not move. Santong also guarded Li Zongjiu's side. Young master, this is the Yuan Rune array. Of course I know. Li Zongjiu said. A huge creature appeared in front of them. It was a dragon beast with an eagle's body. Eagle Dragon Shakyamuni and the others were called Shakyamuni because the four experts in the array formed the four symbols fatal formation. In this large array, they could condense their own Dharma Laksana, which was extremely powerful and intimidating. With the activation of the large array, the Dharma Laksana that had been sleeping in the array also woke up. How dare you invade the forbidden area of Qingyuan Mountain Villa? Kill without mercy. In the mist, a huge figure walked out. The figure was huge and his face was filled with fear. Phantom Shakyamuni. Chapter 758. It was like the sound of an ancient bell. Wang! There seemed to be a terrifying storm on the ground. Another colossal creature walked out from the other side. Heavenly Toad Dharma form. Red Spider Dharma idol. The four Dharma Laksana simultaneously released a terrifying pressure towards Li Zongjiu. Boom! Young master, be careful. San Tong reached out and grabbed, wanting to pull Li Zongjiu behind him. However, he found that his grab missed. The young master was no longer by his side, and the environment in front of him was rapidly changing. Li Zongjiu and San Tong were separated by this array. As for Li Zongjiu, he had already seen through this set of origin inscriptions formation. For symbols formation. What the hell are you? You're even worse than David's deer. Li Zongjiu also tried his best to ridicule. It should be known that Li Zongjiu had seen some ancient and authentic formations. Whether it was in terms of aura or power, they were all many times stronger than the formations in front of him. Therefore, the formation formed by the four people in front of him looked like a cat drawing a tiger. Li Zongjiu was not interested in it at all. You arrogant brat! Today, I will show you the power of Dharma laws. The ghost elephant's body suddenly charged towards Li Zongjiu. Collapsing mountain slam. As they stumbled, they immediately formed a scene of the earth quaking and mountains shaking. Feeling the power of the collapse, Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and summoned the desolate heaven essence into his hand. Ghost elephant's nose was already in front of Li Zongjiu. His nose suddenly shook, as if he had the strength to pry open a mountain. Boom! Li Zongjiu's figure flashed to the ghost elephant's side and threw the desolate heaven essence in his hand. When the desolate heaven essence appeared, it smashed into the ghost elephant's body. The ghost elephant Shakyamuni, who was in the middle of casting a spell, opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Pooh! As he spat out a mouthful of blood, ghost elephant Shakyamuni immediately increased the output of his origin energy. He tried his best to control his Dharma idol so that it would not be destroyed so easily. If that was the case, the power of the four symbols grand formation would be reduced by more than half. Therefore, the Ghost King Dharma idol had to be maintained here. What are you guys waiting for? Attack together. When the rest of the people saw that the Ghost King Dharma idol was about to be defeated, they started to attack as well. The Sky Toad immediately sprinted. It leaped and crashed into the ground. Boom! In an instant, the ground seemed to have turned into a cold pond. Humph, what a lousy performance. Li Zongjiu directly stomped his foot, and the black dazzle flames immediately formed a terrifying ring of fire around his body. When this ring of fire wrapped around his body, it also wrapped around Li Zongjiu. They were all only at the Yuan King realm, so when faced with Li Zongjiu's strength, they did not have the slightest bit of resistance and were defeated just like that. The four symbols' deadly array finally broke by itself. Li Zongjiu also saw the eagle dragon Shakyamuni, who had retreated, quickly hide in the depths of the cave. Li Zongjiu chased after them and saw them appear in front of him. The four Shakyamuni were all sitting on an empty spot on the stone wall. Seeing Li Zongjiu chasing after them, the phantom elephant Dharma idol took action. Ghost elephant Shakyamuni immediately formed a seal, and a figure was grabbed out from the void by him. It was San Tong. Brat, if you take another step forward, I'll kill her. The phantom elephant Shakyamuni's hand directly grabbed San Tong's neck, as if he was going to crush San Tong's head in the next second. These Shakyamuni's clothes were also strange. San Tong's cultivation was still at the Yuan Zong realm, so he naturally did not have enough strength to fight with these people. However, San Tong was being held hostage by the phantom elephant Shakyamuni, so he did not directly surrender. He immediately activated the Yuan bead in his body and gathered all his strength. The energy instantly became surging and urgent. When he saw this scene, the phantom elephant Shakyamuni immediately exclaimed, "You actually want to self-destruct, no way." The phantom elephant Shakyamuni immediately threw Santong to the ground with his palm. If he landed on the ground, his body would definitely be crushed. However, the moment he escaped from the phantom elephant Shakyamuni's palm, Santong's entire body was plunged into darkness. Dark Yuan Pierce. In times of crisis, the dark elemental spike could also be used as a means to escape. Mountain flipping golden seal. A golden light flashed in Li Zongjiu's palm. In the next moment, a terrifying golden palm light slammed down towards the 4 people in front of him. Boom! With a loud sound, the 4 people in front of him were clearly dealt with. They fell to the ground. When he retracted his palm, the 4 people were directly smashed into pieces. Only a pile of flesh and ashes were left on the ground. Santong also fell out of the space with a bang. His legs almost gave way and he was about to kneel on the ground. However, he relied on the dagger in his hand to barely support his body. He didn't fall directly to the ground. Cough cough. The move just now had obviously consumed a lot of Santong's strength, so his face was relatively pale. Li Zongjiu's subordinates have been dealt with by me. Ying Long, you must leave that brat to me. Meng Yi's voice came from outside the cave. When Meng Yi rushed in with a heavily injured Tian Fei, he just happened to see the 4 figures on the opposite wall. If he guessed correctly, these 4 figures were the 4 Shakyamuni. Although they were smashed into 4 piles of ruins, they could still be vaguely recognized. Li Zongjiu leaned his body and pointed. Are you talking to them? You should have come earlier. Chapter 759. Meng Yi swallowed his saliva. He even felt that his eyes were blurring. The formation formed by the 4 Shakyamuni was so powerful that it could even trap an primitive emperor powerhouse within it. However, the 4 of them had been slapped to death by Li Zongjiu. They looked like the corpses of 4 cockroaches. Meng Yi was unable to react. Was this Li Zongjiu's doing? You killed the 4 guardian kings. Meng Yi pointed at Li Zongjiu and said in a trembling voice. If that was the case, Li Zongjiu's strength would be terrifying. In a panic, Meng Yi grabbed Tian Fei. Don't act recklessly. Otherwise, I will kill him. Meng Yi roared and retreated quickly. He knew that Li Zongjiu was vicious and merciless. He would definitely not let him go. When Meng Yi turned around and wanted to escape, he just happened to see the flying knife flying towards him. Chi! The flying knife instantly pierced through Meng Yi's forehead. His body, which was still grabbing onto Tian Fei, fell to the ground with a thud. His eyes were wide open. However, he was still unable to avoid Li Zongjiu's flying knife. Meng Yi had just escaped from the cave. When his body fell, he saw the mountain of corpses in front of him. When he saw the sky full of corpses piled up here, only then did Meng Yi truly realize how terrifying Li Zongjiu and the others were. No, it was mainly because of Li Zongjiu. What a terrifying demon. Meng Yi originally thought that he had a chance to avenge his son's death. However, when he fell, he realized how stupid and regretful he was. He could still have another son. There was no need to sacrifice his life. However, it was too late to regret now. There was no chance for him to come back to life. Tian Fei and Santong were both seriously injured. Clearly, the strength of the 2 of them was only enough to reach this point. The 2 of you, go back to Luoxia City to recuperate. I will look for you after I am done. Li Zongjiu said to the 2 of them. Although Santong was extremely unwilling, he knew that if he continued, he would definitely become a burden to Li Zongjiu. If that was the case, it would be better for him to leave. Young master, you must be careful. Santong looked at Li Zongjiu and said. However, Santong was thinking that if the young master died, he would definitely find the people of Qingyuan Manor to settle the score. Even if he had to kill 1 a day, there would be a day when he would wipe out all the people of Qingyuan Manor. Tian Fei was ashamed of himself. However, he was only a disciple of the mystic Yuan sect. It was not easy for him to make it this far. Young master, your safety is the most important thing. Tian Fei coughed a few times. It seemed that he would have to recuperate for a while. Meng Yi was much stronger than him. However, in front of Li Zongjiu, Meng Yi was really scared out of his wits. Therefore, there was no way he could compete with Li Zongjiu and was instantly killed. Because the following situation would be very brutal. Li Zongjiu's muscular body was on full display, but it was a pity that there was no one in the wilderness to appreciate it. Young people still needed to have some muscles. Even if you didn't cultivate your Yuan Qi, you could still develop such muscles with a little exercise. The most important thing was perseverance. When the surrounding golden jade qi used to suppress the Yuan Qi dragon vein disappeared, the Yuan Qi of the dragon vein would gradually be released. At this moment, what Li Zongjiu needed to do was to absorb this Yuan Qi dragon vein. To be able to form an entire dragon vein with this Yuan Qi, one could see how terrifyingly rich the Yuan Qi was. Even if an Yuan emperor released all his Yuan Qi, it would be far less than 1/10 of the Yuan Qi dragon vein in front of him. Absorbing the Yuan Qi dragon vein was an extremely provocative act for the Yuan Qi dragon vein. His essence Qi dragon vein had already gathered to such a peak level. How could it be that it would be absorbed by a puny human like you? Therefore, it must be an extremely terrifying battle. Everything had spirituality, not to mention this Yuan Qi dragon vein. If you were to absorb the dragon vein, it would be equivalent to depriving the dragon vein of all the energy it had accumulated over its lifetime. Similarly, the dragon vein would not surrender so easily. It would have to struggle for a while before it would surrender. Come on. Li Zongjiu sat down on the edge of the cliff and opened his cultivation state. An aura formed around him and immediately attracted the Yuan Qi dragon vein. Weng. Chapter 760. This vitality dragon vein had been formed for at least 10,000 years. Some time ago, it could have broken free and even formed its own spiritual wisdom. However, it was suppressed in place by someone's means. Now that it was free, there was a weak human who wanted to refine it. How could it tolerate this? The dragon vein was already filled with anger. Now, there was someone who was not afraid of death and wanted to refine it. To the essence Qi dragon vein, this was simply a suicidal act. Immediately, the dragon vein rose into the air, as if it carried a thunderous force, and suddenly rushed down towards Li Zongjiu. Boom! In an instant, Li Zongjiu's entire being seemed to be crushed by this force. The surging force seemed to want to swallow Li Zongjiu. Like a waterfall of vitality that came down from the sky, it directly smashed onto Li Zongjiu's body. Buzz! Like a huge mountain, it smashed onto Li Zongjiu's body. If it weren't for the ancient golden body art that had tempered his body for a long time, it would have been extremely hard under such circumstances. He barely resisted the first wave. All of you shall return to my hell. The vitality gathered around Li Zongjiu, forming a vortex around him. It was like a huge dragon hundreds of meters long, entrenched Li Zongjiu, and at the same time, constantly squeezing Li Zongjiu in front of it, squeezing Li Zongjiu's body. If Li Zongjiu didn't have enough experience in his previous life, he would have been extremely flustered in the face of such a situation. Immediately, Li Zongjiu stabilized his body. Then, he methodically poured the vitality into his own infernal realm, as if he was peeling silk from a cocoon. With the influx of Yuan power, the blood-soul hell, which had originally collapsed, seemed to gradually recover at this moment. His powerful mental strength manipulated the primordial qi. Part of it was used to refine his body, while the other part was used to temper his body. My primordial spirits, you can devour without restraint. Li Zongjiu bellowed in his heart. From the Yuan bead, 3 dragon souls immediately leapt out. Like incomparably greedy ghosts, they continuously absorbed the energy of the Yuan Qi Dragon Vein. The power of the Yuan Energy Dragon Vein was constantly being gnawed away. Although the Yuan Energy Dragon Vein was also constantly rioting, Li Zongjiu and his Yuan spirits were like towering trees in the gale. Like a boulder under the raging waves, he remained motionless. Li Zongjiu was able to forcefully suppress him, allowing him to rampage as he pleased. However, Li Zongjiu remained unperturbed. Qingyuan Mountain, Qingyuan Villa. Not good. Above the villa, someone immediately felt the changes in the dragon vein. This person was the array grandmaster of Qingyuan Villa, Zhan Tian Tian. Qingyuan Villa was divided into left and right villas. The left villas were responsible for the logistics, as well as the management and overall planning of the villa. For example, the 4 big workshops were under the management of the left villas. The people of the right villas were basically responsible for killing and fighting, settling matters outside, and attacking cities. For example, the 8 banner troops and the blood strike guards were under the management of the right villas. Qingyuan Villa was the #1 villa in the world. Apart from the signboard of King Qingyuan, it also possessed great power. They themselves also possessed great power. Experts from all over the world had gathered here. Zhan Tian Tian stood up from the 8 trigrams array and immediately summoned the commander of the right villas. Boom! An primitive emperor expert came from afar. Elder Zhan, why are you so panicked? Feng Hui's residence was the closest to Zhan Tian Tian, and he was also one of the 5 giants of the right villas. 5 giants, which meant that there were at least 5 primitive emperors. Not good. Villa Master's vital Qi Dragon Vein is fluctuating, and it's showing signs of going berserk. Previously, Zhan Tian Tian had set up a detection array near the vital Qi Dragon Vein. If there was any movement, Zhan Tian Tian would be the first to know. After all, this vital Qi Dragon Vein was here, and he had been paying attention to it for a long time. Even after the Villa Master's cultivation had broken through, he would need this vital Qi Dragon Vein. How could this be? Let's go and check it out quickly. Feng Hui was shocked when he heard that. However, what Master Zhan said couldn't be wrong. Someone must have done something. Someone actually dared to have ideas about Qingyuan Villa. This was a little too arrogant. The vital Qi Dragon Vein was right under the eyes of Qingyuan Villa. Many experts were guarding here, and not just anyone dared to approach. Let's go. Zhan Tian didn't dare to be careless. If something really went wrong, then he would have to bear the greatest responsibility. Therefore, Zhan Tian Tian didn't dare to be careless. Time was of the essence, and Feng Hui did not even have time to explain. He directly brought the sky occupying heaven to the dragon vein, disregarding the time of 10 breaths. When the 2 of them arrived at the dragon vein, they immediately felt a terrifying force surging out from the dragon vein. It instantly stirred the surrounding Yuan energy, turning it into a chaotic place. Stay away. Feng Hui immediately grabbed the sky occupying heaven and retreated. If one were to be sucked in by this Yuan energy turbulence, one would definitely be struck by this energy. Not everyone could withstand this kind of Yuan energy turbulence. It was even more powerful than an ordinary storm. Although your own Yuanli was refined by you, when you encounter this Yuanli, it will also be included in it and more or less be affected. Feng Hui and Zhan Tian immediately retreated to a distance of nearly 50 meters. At the center of the dragon vein, a Yuan energy whirlpool with a radius of 50 meters had appeared. No one was able to approach this whirlpool. Even an elite like Feng Hui would be crushed by this Yuan energy if he were to approach. How could this be? Feng Hui and Zhan Tian's faces were filled with shock. Someone is absorbing the dragon vein. Zhan Tian's eyes immediately saw a faintly discernible figure in the center of the whirlpool, absorbing the Yuan energy dragon vein. Such a terrifying Yuan energy dragon vein, and he's actually using such a direct method to absorb it. Does this person not want to live anymore? Zhan Tian exclaimed. In the face of such a powerful dragon's slumber, directly absorbing it was like swallowing an energy ball that one couldn't withstand. It could explode in one's body at any time, blowing one into countless pieces. The correct refining method required a sufficient number of elites to trap the Yuan energy dragon vein, then disperse the latter's energy and absorb it. Alternatively, multiple elites would be able to absorb the Yuan energy dragon vein at the same time. If such a person directly charged in, it was basically an act of seeking death. But now, even if this person died, it would be difficult to make up for this dragon vein. The energy of the dragon vein would definitely escape. Just this Yuan energy dragon vein alone was even more powerful than a peak origin emperor expert. Such power wasn't something that could be easily captured. Previously, he was able to trap it because the latter had yet to fully awaken, so he used some materials to suppress it. That was why they were able to achieve such an effect. But now that the dragon vein had awakened, whoever approached it would die. Once one died, the Yuan bead in one's body would also become a part of the Yuan Qi dragon vein and be completely assimilated. Now that the Yuan Qi dragon vein has been activated, the chances of suppressing the dragon vein back are very slim. Zhan Tian frowned and said. Even his hands had begun to tremble. This was an extremely serious mistake. No matter what, we can't let the dragon vein escape. Feng Hui said in a deep voice. I'll ask them to come over. Feng Hui immediately sent a signal to the sky. There were a total of 5 giants in the right manner, each of them could be called a commander. Some time ago, Bai Shiyan also went out with the team to make arrangements outside, but there were still 4 people in the manor. When they received Feng Hui's summon in the sky, a few glorious auras immediately swept over. Wang! Wang! Feng Hui, what's the matter? Why did you summon all of us? 3 terrifying auras directly descended from the manor. Recommended Friends Masterpiece, Sacred Martial Divine Venerable, Must Be Fire Fantasy. Chapter 761. The other 3 were Yin Xingguo, Guanzhu, and Tai Su. All 3 of them were at the primitive emperor realm. Feng Hui was the strongest among them, having reached the 2nd grade primitive emperor realm. The other 3 were also at the 1st grade primitive emperor realm. According to the rules of the continent, primitive emperors couldn't act rashly. Otherwise, they would offend the rules of the continent and get into some very troublesome matters. It wasn't necessary at all. Therefore, most of the primitive emperors stayed in the manor. Only Bai Shiyan was outside. Logically speaking, when Bai Shiyan received this signal, he should have rushed back. Fuck! What's going on? Yin Xingguo, who was originally asking questions, immediately shut his mouth after seeing the situation in front of him. He thought that something had appeared in the vicinity of Qingyuan Mountain Villa, so they were all summoned here to join in the fun and so on. But when they saw the dragon vein, they were completely stunned. To think that someone would want to absorb the dragon vein. Wasn't this just courting death? If we let this person take away the dragon vein, we'll end up in a miserable state. Guanzhu said in a deep voice. No matter what, they couldn't let Li Zongjiu walk out of here unscathed. Otherwise, the manor master would blame them and they would all be finished. Master Zhan, what should we do now? Feng Hui asked the sky occupying heavens beside him. Only the sky occupying heavens could solve this problem. They didn't know much about the origin Qi dragon vein. The 4 of you will form a formation and trap this Yuan energy dragon vein. Once the people below are devoured by this Yuan energy dragon vein, this Yuan energy dragon vein will definitely soar into the sky. At this time, if the 4 of you can join forces to block this Yuan energy dragon vein, I will have a way to suppress it. Zhan Tian said in a deep voice. However, the impact you will have to bear at that moment is equivalent to the full blow of a 9th grade primitive emperor. When he said that, the 4 of them who were full of information had a drastic change in expression. Which idiot came here to court death? Taishu said coldly. It was impossible for a single person to refine such a huge dragon vein. Unless the person refining the dragon vein was a 9th-grade origin emperor, it would be impossible for him to refine such a huge dragon vein. Otherwise, the only outcome would be death. Now, not only did that guy cause his own death, he even dragged them down with him. No matter what, I have to try. Feng Hui said. It was better to have a chance than to have no hope at all. However, there was no doubt that these people hated the person below to the bone. No matter what method that person used to survive, he would still be hunted down by these people. Immediately, the 4 great primitive emperors were ready to welcome the impact. Just thinking about the impact of a 9th-grade primitive emperor made them excited. As for Zhang Tian, he was also doing his best to set up an origin inscription array. If he wanted to suppress the power of the origin Qi dragon vein, he would need to put in more effort. Unless he was a 6th-grade array master, he would be able to set up an array to suppress the origin Qi dragon vein. However, his current strength was far from enough, but he could only give it a try. At this moment, Li Zongjiu, who was below the origin Qi vortex, naturally knew that the 5 of them were approaching. The existence of the 4 primitive emperors also made Li Zongjiu's heart move. Under the terrifying refinement of the Yuan Qi dragon vein, Li Zongjiu's Yuan Qi cultivation and physical body cultivation were rapidly increasing. It was as if a switch had been turned on to speed up. Under this cleansing, his cultivation was constantly making breakthroughs. 6th-grade Yuan Monarch. 7th-grade Yuan Monarch. 8th-grade Yuan Monarch. Obstacles in terms of cultivation level were nothing to Li Zongjiu, as if they did not exist at all. As long as there was enough origin Qi, Li Zongjiu's cultivation level would be able to continuously make breakthroughs. However, Li Zongjiu was also suppressing himself. If he were to rush forward directly, it would not be good for him. First of all, his body needed to keep up with the speed. Otherwise, if the ancient golden tyrant body art was left behind, he did not know how long it would take for him to recover his strength. Once his body was damaged, there would definitely be some damage. It would be even more troublesome to recover in the future. Therefore, it was better to fight steadily and surely for now. The biggest gain was the reconstruction of the Blood Soul Hell. Then, the Blood Soul Hell was reformed. Li Zongjiu was shocked to discover that the toughness of the Blood Soul Hell was 10 times greater than before. Under such circumstances, Li Zongjiu was extremely pleasantly surprised. Today's origin Qi dragon vein cannot be completely refined. In that case, I will use this origin Qi dragon vein to create a second hell. The Hell Prajna technique itself carried such a terrifying ability. The first hell, the Blood Soul Hell, had just been stabilized. However, it was impossible to refine such a huge origin Qi dragon vein directly. It had to be eaten slowly. If the power of the origin Qi dragon vein was allowed to escape, it was not Li Zongjiu's style. In that case, I will create a origin Qi hell for the second hell. Li Zongjiu was already mentally prepared. When he opened up this origin Qi hell, the amount of energy consumed was not much. As long as the origin Qi hell existed, it would be equivalent to Li Zongjiu having another place to store origin Qi. However, it would not have any offensive effects. It would be of great use when assisting or helping others to break through. Li Zongjiu immediately operated the infernal prajna art, opened the second layer of hell, and poured all of his vital energy into it. Boom! Like a floodgate being opened, the surging origin Qi immediately gushed into the hell created by Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu's cultivation base was also fixed at the grade 9 Yuan monarch realm. An imposing aura pervaded the air as a new monarch was born. Although Li Zongjiu was only a grade 9 Yuan monarch, because he had 4 great Yuan spirits, the strength of the origin Qi in his body was 4 times or more than that of a powerhouse of the same level. In the outside world, Feng Hui, and the rest, who had made ample preparations, were waiting for the Yuan energy dragon vein to soar into the sky. However, who would have expected that the Yuan energy dragon vein would actually wither at this moment? Like a balloon that had been inflated, it instantly withered away. It was as if it had deflated. How could this be? The four of them were shocked because the Yuan Qi seemed to have disappeared on the spot. They couldn't believe it. They looked at each other and finally looked at sky occupying heaven's body. Zhantian himself was also dumbfounded. Logically speaking, such a situation should not have happened. All the origin Qi seemed to have lost its power at this moment. Even the origin Qi vortex was rapidly weakening. Let's go. The five of them immediately walked towards the center of the vortex. From the looks of it, that person must have used some unknown method to collect the dragon vein. In that case, we just need to make that person hand over the thing. Li Zongjiu happened to be withdrawing the origin Qi from his body. Previously, because the origin Qi vortex was too powerful, the mountain wall above his head had been destroyed. It seemed like a sinkhole had appeared and below his feet was a bottomless abyss. A Yuan monarch? Quickly hand over the origin Qi dragon vein and we will not kill you. They would not kill him, but they would definitely not let him leave alive. Chapter 762. Li Zongjiu stood where he was. His Yuan Qi cultivation had already reached the level of a grade 9 Yuan monarch, but his physical body cultivation was slightly weaker. It seemed to be around the level of a grade 7 Yuan monarch. As for his mind power, it was even more ordinary. He had not made any breakthroughs during this period of time. Seems like the next step is to strengthen my mind power cultivation. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. It had to be an all-round and balanced development. Only then would it be possible to make a breakthrough in the future. He had to be fully prepared to break through to the absolute saint realm. He could not be greedy for a breakthrough in a short period of time. Li Zongjiu sensed the changes in his body. Then, he lifted his head and looked at the people in front of him. Each and every one of them looked at Li Zongjiu as if they wanted to eat him alive. With such a look in their eyes, they actually said that they would not kill Li Zongjiu. Could it be that these people did not need to act anymore after their realm had increased? Do you want the Yuan Qi dragon vein? Sure, how much are you willing to pay? Li Zongjiu said very calmly. He was not nervous at all even though he was surrounded by so many people. His tone was also very calm as he said that. Courting death. They heard Li Zongjiu's arrogant words. This was clearly their dragon vein. How dare he ask for money from them? How shameless. Feng Hui's mouth twitched when he heard that. He exchanged glances with the rest of the people. They had not expected a fool to come. At this moment, they had already sensed Li Zongjiu's Yuan monarch realm cultivation base. In front of these four Yuan monarchs, it was like catching a turtle in a jar. There was no suspense at all. They guessed that Li Zongjiu must have had the help of some divine weapon to be able to survive in this Yuan Qi vortex. Only in this way could it be said that everything made sense. Therefore, they did not take Li Zongjiu seriously at all. Since he wants money, which one of you is willing to give him the money? Feng Hui glanced at the three of them, implying that someone should teach Li Zongjiu a lesson and let him know what kind of situation Li Zongjiu was in. Let me do it. I recently made a fortune. Brat, you have to catch it. Guanju volunteered himself, and a long black saber appeared in his hand. Take a look and see if my soul-severing saber is enough. Guanju coldly snorted. Then, he leaped forward and charged towards Li Zongjiu. As he swooped down, he mobilized all the Yuan power in his body and gathered it on the soul-severing saber. Guanju held back a little bit of his strength, and it was only at the peak of the Yuan King realm. He thought that he only needed to seriously injure Li Zongjiu. After all, he still had to explain where the Yuan Qi dragon vein was hidden by this brat. He did not dare to kill Li Zongjiu without knowing what the divine weapon was. This was because some things were mysterious. If the owner died, it would be very complicated to open it again. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he only needed to seriously injure Li Zongjiu. When Guan Zhu swooped down with the soul-severing saber and arrived in front of Li Zongjiu looked at Guan Zhu with a slight smile. Guan Zhu's eyes were filled with disdain at first, but when Li Zongjiu raised his hand, his expression changed instantly. Shit! He knew that something was wrong, but it was too late. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and his 5 fingers formed a sharp claw, grabbing Guan Zhu's neck. Guan Zhu did not know how he did it. When Li Zongjiu's fingers closed around his neck, Guan Zhu knew that he was done for. A sense of fear arose spontaneously. Boom! Li Zongjiu grabbed Guan Zhu and threw him over his shoulder to the ground behind him. When Guan Zhu's body fell, Li Zongjiu's force, which was more than 1,000,000 kilograms, was all used on Guan Zhu's body. The Yuan Qi defense that Guan Zhu had automatically released collapsed instantly. This was because the force that had suddenly erupted was too strong. At the same time, the bones in Guan Zhu's body were directly shattered. No one could withstand such a huge impact. Clang! The soul-severing saber fell to the side. Guan Zhu was pressed to the ground by Li Zongjiu, unable to move. However, Feng Hui and the rest were able to sense that Guan Zhu's aura seemed to be rapidly declining. Dead! Dead! Li Zongjiu had already stopped his action and took out a gray robe from the Southern Empire ring. He was still half naked. As an expert, he naturally had to pay attention to his image. After picking up the soul-severing saber, Li Zongjiu looked at the others. This saber is not enough. Li Zongjiu said faintly to the people in front of him. Old Guan. Dead. Dead? Guan Zhu, who was lying on the ground, did not get up again because he could no longer move. In just one move, Li Zongjiu had slain Guan Zhue with his physical strength. An primitive emperor powerhouse had been smashed to death by Li Zongjiu. This, the few of them had yet to react, as they could not believe what they had just seen. How could such a thing happen just like that? This kid's cultivation is strange. Let's take him down first. Zhang Tian shouted as he threw out a scroll from his hand. There were also yuan stones around the scroll, giving off a feeling of complementing each other. When the scroll was unfolded, a terrifying power was immediately released. It seemed as if hundreds of origin beasts had rushed out from the scroll and were charging towards Li Zongjiu. Zhang Tian had long noticed that there seemed to be something wrong with Li Zongjiu, but he was not sure at the beginning. Now that he had seen Li Zongjiu kill Guan Zhu in one move, how could he be careless with such a fierce and powerful strength? Defeat this person first. Feng Hui also let out a low roar, taking the lead to release his primordial spirit. The power of an primitive emperor expert was like a force that could move unhindered between heaven and earth. The origin spirit behind Feng Hui was a 6-eared fire monkey. The monkey's ears were burning with blue flames. Feng Hui reached out and grabbed the flames on the 6-eared fire monkey's ears. Then, he threw it towards Li Zongjiu. A green-blue flame appeared, and the surrounding vegetation seemed to be ignited because of it. Boom! Grand Moon Sword. A purple sword appeared in Yin Shengwu's hand. As he waved his hand, the Grand Moon Sword immediately coiled towards Li Zongjiu like a terrifying purple python. Yin Shengwu's origin spirit was a purple python. However, this purple python had already become the weapon spirit of the Grand Moon Sword. Heavenly Illusionary Sun Mirror. Fix it. A bronze mirror appeared in Yin Shengwu's hand. The bronze mirror seemed to be flashing with turbid light. When the power of the mirror emerged, it was like rays of divine light that fell on Li Zongjiu's body. Li Zongjiu's body was bound by the golden light. This metal-based weapon actually had the effect of fixing one's body. The 4 experts took action together. It seemed that Li Zongjiu would not be able to escape alive. Chapter 763. Boom! When the flames and the Grand Moon Sword landed, a terrifying explosive force was set off. Dust filled the air and soared into the sky. The four of them looked at Tai Su. With Tai Su's sun reflection mirror, Li Zongjiu would have nowhere to hide once he was locked on by the sun reflection mirror. Even an Origin Emperor expert would hesitate for a moment if he was locked on by the sun reflection mirror. The few of them had already formed a tacit cooperation. Boom! A ray of light shot out from the dust and swept towards the picture scroll that Jiantian had released. A ray of light directly blasted onto the picture scroll, shattering the surrounding yuan stones. At the same time, the picture scroll emitted a swoosh sound as it lost its luster and fell to the ground. My Thousand Beast picture. When Zhan Tian saw his Thousand Beast portrait falling, he suddenly became nervous. He subconsciously wanted to grab the Thousand Beast portrait. This was a treasure that he had obtained with great difficulty. If it fell into the abyss, he did not know when he would be able to find it again. However, just as Jiantian's figure was about to fall, he saw a hand grab the Thousand Beast picture first. This thing is not bad. If you have any other good things, just take them out. Li Zongjiu held the Desolate Heaven Essence in one hand and grabbed the Thousand Beast picture with one hand. When he looked at Jiantian, Jiantian was immediately frightened and retreated. How is this kid still alive? Extreme Yin kill. Yin Shenggu roared. He had been paying attention to Li Zongjiu's situation. When he saw Li Zongjiu rushing out, he immediately drew his sword and attacked with the Grand Moon Sword in his hand. The terrifying power immediately surged out and swept towards Li Zongjiu. This purple python is still underage. Li Zongjiu looked at the sword python that was swooping down. The purple boa python was a type of evolved meta beast. This kind of meta beast needed to continuously feed on human souls in its later stages. In other words, the more humans it ate, the stronger the purple boa python would be. However, the purple boa python in front of him was obviously malnourished. Since it had yet to reach adulthood, its power was naturally ordinary. At most, it was at the early primitive emperor level. If it was an adult purple body python that appeared today, then Li Zongjiu would have to think twice. Nonsense. If it was an adult purple boa python, it would be at least a 7th stage primitive emperor. Therefore, it could be said that Yin Shenggu had great potential. Li Zongjiu threw out the Desolate Heaven Essence in his hand, clashing with the Grand Moon Sword. Immediately, Yin Shenggu felt a crushing pain in his body. How is this possible? My Tai Yin sword! Yin Shenggu immediately exclaimed. A crack had actually appeared on his Grand Moon Sword. How is this not possible? Fortunately, Great Void's protective Yuan Qi had blocked the blow and prevented him from fainting. This brat! Seeing that Li Zongjiu had actually bypassed him to attack Absolute Void, Feng Hui was enraged. What a crafty fellow! Based on the commotion, it was clear that Li Zongjiu was picking on the weak ones. He avoided Feng Hui and turned to take down the rest. Fight me head-on if you have the ability. Feng Hui muttered to himself. At this moment, Li Zongjiu turned around and looked at Feng Hui with a disdainful smile. Bring it on then. Li Zongjiu immediately put away the Desolate Heaven Essence. Then, he crossed his hands in front of him and a dazzling golden seal shot out from his hands and blasted towards Feng Hui. A mere golden seal. Eat my fist. Feng Hui once again borrowed flames from the six-eared fire monkey behind him. He twisted his hands and the flames turned into a fist that blasted forward and collided with Li Zongjiu's golden seal. Feng Hui had borrowed the power of the six-eared fire monkey's flames. The power of the six-eared fire monkey's flames could easily burn a Yuan monarch elite to death. However, this invincible flaming fist was shattered into pieces by Li Zongjiu's golden seal. What? The overturning mountain golden seal blasted in front of Feng Hui. Fortunately, Feng Hui used his Yuan Qi to form a protective barrier. Bang! Even so, Feng Hui's body was still pushed back a few hundred meters and finally stopped on a treetop. It was 1 against 5. It was a complete suppression. Immediately, these people understood Li Zongjiu's strength. It was too terrifying. You, who exactly are you? Zhang Tian stared at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had taken away his 1000-beast portrait, which was his ultimate treasure. You still don't know who I am? It seems like you really don't take me seriously. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but laugh. These people were really interesting. However, it seemed like Qingyuan Manor was really arrogant. They had casually taken out 5 Yuan monarchs and countless Yuan monarchs. Therefore, he naturally did not take Li Zongjiu, who was in the Sacred Flame Royal City, seriously. Some information about Li Zongjiu was that he had reached the Yuan monarch realm. Even Bai Shiyan only knew about Li Zongjiu because he was secretly protecting Lei Gong. However, he also didn't take Li Zongjiu seriously. Otherwise, he would have killed Li Zongjiu a long time ago. Chapter 764. However, looking at their expressions, it seemed like they really didn't know who Li Zongjiu was. Zhang Tian moved his fingers and stared at Li Zongjiu with his eyes wide open. You are Li Zongjiu. Zhang Tian said in horror. The rest of the people finally reacted. The young man in front of them was actually Li Zongjiu. In fact, the reason why they had an impression of Li Zongjiu was because they knew that there was someone in the Sacred Flame Royal City who wanted to make an enemy out of their Qingyuan villa. At first, they didn't care, but later on, Li Zongjiu became a level 6 alchemist. Even though the Heavenly Pill Pavilion tried their best to suppress the news to prevent it from leaking out, many people still found out about it. Later on, after investigating, they found out that Li Zongjiu seemed to have quite a bit of conflict with their Qingyuan villa. Originally, he thought that if there was a chance, he would try to win over a 6th-grade alchemist. However, who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, the person who had threatened to destroy the Qingyuan villa actually came. Although he was only one person, he was able to beat them to such a state. Perhaps Li Zongjiu really had the ability to do so. Leave your last words. Since you are so good at counting, I will start with you. Li Zongjiu pointed at Zhang Tian and said. Zhang Tian suddenly felt his body stiffen. Arrogant brat, I will definitely tear you to pieces. Yin Shengwu's eyes were red as he stared at Li Zongjiu and said coldly. He couldn't wait to kill Li Zongjiu because Li Zongjiu destroyed his lunar sword. Once it was destroyed, it was basically half of his life's work. It was impossible to cultivate it back. Now that Li Zongjiu had made a move, it could be said that his entire life was ruined. You don't mess around. Our Qingyuan villa accepts talents from all over the world. If there is anything, we can sit down and discuss it. Zhang Tian wanted to appease Li Zongjiu's emotions. Based on the current situation, they didn't seem to be Li Zongjiu's opponent. Therefore, it was better to calm Li Zongjiu down first. Once Li Zongjiu was brought into the Qingyuan villa, it would be completely under Zhang Tian's control. After all, Zhang Tian was an array master. The Qingyuan villa's array was all designed by Zhang Tian was. As long as Li Zongjiu walked in, he was dead meat was dead, Zhang Tian's was dead. In reality, Zhang Tian had already very rarely left the Qingyuan mountain villa. As a formation master, staying within his own formation was the safest thing to do. Zhang Tian's that person was a person was a person's was a person's was a person's he was t's is. You want to bring me into your array, right? Instead of kneeling down and surrendering, you want to kill me. You deserve to die. Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with mockery. He had killed so many people in the Qingyuan villa. How could he sit down and chat? Was he an idiot? Li Zongjiu immediately rushed towards Zhang Tian. Damn it! Zhang Tian cursed. He turned around and ran towards Feng Hui. When Feng Hui blocked Li Zongjiu, he would find an opportunity to escape back into the villa. Feng Hui, save me. However, Zhang Tian was surprised that Feng Hui saw that the situation was not good. He immediately called for everyone to retreat. Zhang Tian turned around and ran after calling for help. Zhang Tian didn't expect that in such a critical situation. As his companion, Feng Hui was actually the first to abandon him. Feng Hui, you betrayed your companion. You will die a horrible death. Zhang Tian said coldly. This time, Li Zongjiu didn't disappoint everyone. He directly smashed Zhang Tian's head with a punch. Li Zongjiu sneered. Feng Hui and the other two looked at Li Zongjiu with lingering fear. Li Zongjiu was simply a berserk battle meta beast. He had easily killed the two of them. Moreover, Yin Shengwu was currently in a half-crippled state. If there was no good way to deal with him, Yin Shengwu would probably be crippled. He would be crippled from now on. Looking at the three of them running away, Li Zongjiu wasn't in a hurry to chase after them. Instead, he turned around and ran towards the mountain path leading to the entrance of the Qingyuan villa. Since I, Li Zongjiu, have promised to destroy your entire family, I will definitely destroy your entire family. Therefore, Li Zongjiu directly started from the entrance. When Li Zongjiu's figure appeared in front of the mountain gate of the Qingyuan villa, he gathered his yuan power and shouted towards the top of the Qingyuan villa. I, Li Zongjiu, am here to destroy the entire Qingyuan villa. If you don't want to die, hurry down the mountain. Li Zongjiu's shout was like a thunderclap. It resounded in the sky above the Qingyuan villa. Since the Qingyuan villa was a place where countless experts, and celebrities worked together, when these people heard that someone had come to create a ruckus and wanted to destroy the entire Qingyuan villa, they were all enraged. All of them were instantly furious. Some of them didn't even care who this Li Zongjiu was. However, this kind of person actually dared to come to the Qingyuan villa and behave atrociously. He was either a madman or a fool. Feng Hui and the others naturally heard Li Zongjiu's warning. However, they were in a hurry to return and form the Yuan rune array to form a defensive force. At the same time, they also needed to recover from their injuries and report this matter to King Qing Yuan so that he could make a decision. In response to Li Zongjiu's warning, Feng Hui and the others could only speed up and didn't come forward to stop him. If they came forward and said something, wouldn't it weaken the prestige of the Qingyuan villa? Most importantly, they had just abandoned the sky-occupying sect. To them, this was also because they were extremely afraid of being discovered. Everything could wait until after they killed Li Zongjiu. At the mountain gate, a large number of experts had already rushed out of the villa's residence. After these people were recruited to the Qingyuan villa, it was said that they would stay together and discuss with each other. However, in reality, it was equivalent to being recruited by King Qing Yuan to become his hired thugs when necessary. As the existence of a villa, it naturally had to raise some of these people. If they encountered some ignorant people, they would directly and easily settle these matters without making it too troublesome. Where did this fool come from? How dare you bark at the entrance of my Qingyuan villa? Watch me, Dajiang overturning staff, personally teach you how to behave. Immediately, a man with a crew cut appeared. He held a mahogany staff in his hand and jumped down from the mountain. As soon as his front foot landed, he was still 5 steps away from Li Zongjiu. He saw Li Zongjiu take a step forward and punch out with all his strength. The crew-cut man's upper and lower body, along with the staff in his hand, were directly sent flying. Chapter 765. This man, who was known as the Great River Turnaround Stick, was once quite famous. Moreover, the staff in his hand was a unique staff technique. It had been passed down from generation to generation, and it was already very good that it could be passed down to the present day. When the Great River Reversal Staff was slightly studied, he directly recruited people to this Qingyuan villa. Looking at the Qingyuan villa, it was clear that they wanted to establish their own martial arts empire. They had wantonly recruited all kinds of martial artists from various sects and copied their martial arts in the Qingyuan mountain villa. Everything had a price. How many people could resist the temptation of money? Sometimes, the price that moved you was not money, but something else. The Great River Reversal Staff was directly killed in one move, and his head was separated from his body. This made everyone vigilant, but the anger and killing intent towards Li Zongjiu also made them lose their rationality. After all, the Great River Reversal Staff's strength was only ranked in the lower middle of the Qingyuan villa, so the place where he lived was a little lower. The speed at which he appeared in front of Li Zongjiu was slightly faster. It was estimated that even the Great River Reversal Staff himself could not believe that he was killed like this. Fortunately, he directly copied the staff technique not long ago. "We, the Haruno Three, will meet you." 3 figures rushed down from the mountain. Looking at the momentum of the 3 people diving down, it was accompanied by bursts of wind sounds, fast and wild, and the murderous aura among them made people shudder. The 3 people rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu directly waved his hand, and rewarded the 3 people. Each of them directly burned the 3 people to ashes. Other than the initial clamor, the 3 of them were silently burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. Although the disappearance of the 3 people made some people suspicious and slightly surprised, they all thought that the 3 people were not strong enough, so they could not blame anyone. At this moment, it was a perfect opportunity to kill Li Zongjiu and make a name for himself. As for the 3 people who were missing, they naturally had to stand aside. That way, there would be one less opponent. "I'll use my Qi returning palm to deal with you. Today, my Qi seizing sect will take away all of your elemental energy, Li Zongjiu. I'll let you die a painful death. We, the 7 monsters of the brilliant Billow Mountain, will also fight you." A large number of experts swooped down from the top of the mountain. These people were all clamoring, and before they made a move, they all announced their names. It was as if he couldn't make a move if he didn't announce his name. Li Zongjiu did not even need to use the Desolate Heaven essence. Just by relying on his physical strength, he shuttled back and forth between these people, punching them with every punch. He had to destroy all of them. The one who claimed to be from the Qi-seizing sect had his yuan bead shattered by Li Zongjiu. He was stunned on the spot, and even though he was heavily injured, he did not have the time to care about it. Li Zongjiu's fists were actually so terrifying. Bang! 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 The number of people who fell under Li Zongjiu's fists was innumerable. The number of experts who rushed down from the top of the Qingyuan mountain manor was at least 200, or even more. They were all famous experts in the pugilistic world. The corpses rushed up from the foot of the Qingyuan mountain. Corpses were strewn all over the place, piling up like a mountain. Some of them even had their family heirloom weapons broken. They held them tightly in their hands, but it was useless. Some of them had half their bodies blasted apart, and the remaining half of their heads were still blinking unwillingly. It was such a bloody path to hell. Some people didn't dare to believe it either. Li Zongjiu was about to reach the peak of the Qingyuan mountain manor. The real Qingyuan mountain manor was on the platform at the peak of the mountain, and there was a huge manor there. However, before reaching the peak, there was still one more hurdle. This was the gate of hell, and there were more than 20 figures standing there. Compared to the trash below, the 20 figures above were obviously very powerful and outstanding. They did not even think highly of the people below. This person's physical strength is extraordinary. I really want to compete with him. Don't interfere later. A man who looked incomparably strong stared at Li Zongjiu and said. At the same time, the muscles on his body were so developed that they looked as if they were made of rocks. It made people feel a sense of awe when they saw him. This person was nicknamed the Diamond King in the pugilistic world. He was a true body-tempering powerhouse. In this Gate of Hell checkpoint, his combat strength could definitely be ranked in the top 5. In fact, his destructive power could almost be ranked in the top 3. It was because this fellow's strength was too terrifying. He had once killed a 7th-grade origin beast with his fists alone. Therefore, this guy's close combat ability was very terrifying. The people around him intentionally avoided the Diamond King. After all, if anyone was ambushed by this guy at close range, they would definitely end up in a miserable state. He's coming. The Diamond King watched as Li Zongjiu grabbed the last 2 corpses and walked up. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. One was heaven, one was earth. There were many Yuan monarch powerhouses below the Gate of Hell, but they could only be considered as low-level powerhouses. However, those overseeing the Gate of Hell were people who had hopes of breaking through to the Yuan Emperor realm in the future. Some of them were even existences whose destructive power was close to the Yuan Emperor realm. The Diamond King roared. "Kid, hand over your life." Then, he leaped up and his feet instantly exploded on the ground, leaving a crack in the ground. Then, he rushed towards Li Zongjiu with his huge body. Li Zongjiu threw the 2 corpses at the newcomer. However, as soon as the 2 corpses got close to the Diamond King, they were smashed into 2 by the Diamond King. Bang! Diamond Mountain quaking fist. Li Zongjiu naturally saw that the strength of the person in front of him wasn't ordinary. He immediately took out the Desolate Heaven Essence without hesitation. He smashed it towards the Diamond King. The Diamond King raised his hands in front of him to block. "Damn it, why haven't I seen you use this before?" The Diamond King blocked with his hands, wanting to resist this move. However, the Desolate Heaven Essence was a weapon that could easily break through the protective Yuan Qi of an Yuan Emperor powerhouse. Bam! Bam! It was like an egg hitting a rock. The Diamond King's body was instantly smashed to pieces. The people above the Gate of Hell were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. The whole place was silent. Even those who had looked down on him before were now taking him seriously. Chapter 766. Who's going? After a moment of silence, Li Zongjiu kept the Desolate Heaven Essence. From the looks of it, he was ready to continue. Therefore, a figure appeared on top of the barrier. Before this person didn't seem to be on top of the defensive wall. With the appearance of this person, a bone-piercing cold wind appeared in the gates of hell. When they felt this cold wind, everyone couldn't help but shrink their necks. His sudden appearance immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. When they saw the black shadow appear, they immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't even believe their eyes. The Night King. The Night King actually appeared in person. In the gates of hell, he was the #1 existence. In fact, not many people in the gates of hell knew whether this person really existed or not. This was because the people who came later had only heard of the name of the person in front of them, but had never seen him in person. Now that they saw this figure appear, they even had some doubts. "Night King, what wind blew you out here? I haven't seen you for many years." A woman with a graceful figure, heavy makeup, and an extremely unbearable fragrance exuding from her body looked at the black figure in front of her and said. In the gates of hell, she was ranked 2nd, Lady Red Scorpion. This was a cruel and merciless woman. When she was young, she suffered misfortune. Later on, she practiced her skills and killed all 300 people in her enemy's family. Such a matter wasn't even worth mentioning. Later on, she came to the Qingyuan mountain villa and could be considered as half-retired. But in fact, she was very fierce. In just a few years, under the situation where the Night King didn't appear, she was almost the peak existence in the gates of hell. However, Lady Red Scorpion also knew how powerful the Night King was. Before she broke through to the Yuan Emperor realm, she didn't dare to compete with the Night King. After all, the Night King's strength was comparable to the Yuan Emperor realm. It was said that this guy had been in seclusion for a period of time and hadn't appeared for a long time. When he appeared this time, there must be a storm. Perhaps, the Night King had already broken through to the Yuan Emperor realm. If that was the case, how terrifying would the Night King be after breaking through to the Yuan Emperor realm? Red Scorpion, you're up. The Night King's words left no room for doubt. Red Scorpion's eyes turned cold. She had been the hegemon of Hell's Gate for a long time, so she was more or less concerned about her reputation. But now, the Night King dared to casually order her around, which put her in a very awkward situation. If she casually obeyed him, wouldn't she lose her prestige and face? However, the Red Scorpion woman was also a smart person. If she made an enemy of the Night King, she would be making an enemy of the entire Qingyuan manor. After all, the Night King was very strong and everyone was willing to listen to him. If she went against Li Zongjiu, she might be able to survive if she found something amiss during the fight and retreated in time. Since it's the Night King's order, this little girl will respectfully obey. Immediately, the woman's eyes flashed with a cold light. She leaped up and without saying a word, stabbed at Li Zongjiu with a dagger in her hand. At this moment, Li Zongjiu had just finished collecting the Diamond King's storage ring. Previously, he had looked down on those people. However, when he reached this place, he realized that these people's strength was not bad. Therefore, there should be a lot of good things in this storage ring. He collected all of them. When Red Scorpion woman made her move, her sharp and unstoppable aura attracted Li Zongjiu's attention. Red Scorpion woman's aura had also reached the level of a grade 9 Yuan monarch. As she made her move, the surrounding power seemed to be attracting Li Zongjiu to Red Scorpion woman. As she made her move, a gust of icy cold air immediately attacked. In front of Red Scorpion woman, the icy cold air seemed to have turned into a sharp blade, rushing straight at Li Zongjiu. Red Scorpion woman's sure-kill move, Ice Piercer, has already been cultivated to the Great Completion realm. If I were to face this move, I would have no chance of dodging at all. Someone above the gates of hell exclaimed in shock after witnessing this move. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart, and it was hard to resist. One had to know that the terrifying power in front of him was spreading. He was almost right in front of him. Boom! Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand. To Li Zongjiu, the invisible sharp qi was completely ignored. Given Li Zongjiu's physical quality, he was completely unaffected by the attack of this power. He grabbed Red Scorpion woman's wrist. At this moment, there seemed to be a light shadow on Red Scorpion woman's arm that was rapidly moving. It suddenly pierced towards Li Zongjiu's palm. The body of this light shadow was a poisonous scorpion. Moreover, this poisonous scorpion also belonged to Red Scorpion woman's original spirit. Sometimes, the original spirits of these people were not extremely large in size. There were even various kinds of original spirits. Therefore, when this poisonous scorpion hid in Red Scorpion woman's body, even the fluctuations it released were very weak. Crack! Although this poisonous scorpion's sneak attack had a miraculous effect, it was not suitable for Li Zongjiu. With a gentle twist of his wrist, Red Scorpion woman's arm was directly twisted off. That poisonous scorpion, which was overflowing with cold light, also fell to the ground with a thud. Li Zongjiu stomped on it and crushed it into pieces. Ah! Red Scorpion woman suddenly spat out blood foam from the corner of her mouth. Obviously, the severe pain caused by this whole body was not something she could withstand at all. However, Red Scorpion woman was also a ruthless person. After a period of severe pain, she suddenly stretched out a sharp spike from her other hand and stabbed it towards Li Zongjiu's head. At such a close distance, he could feel the cold air that was spreading out. Faced with this move, Li Zongjiu also very straightforwardly punched out. He directly broke Red Scorpion woman's spike and punched the latter's fist. Crack! Red Scorpion woman's hand was directly crushed. Li Zongjiu almost easily crippled Red Scorpion woman, but he keenly noticed that there seemed to be someone coming towards Red Scorpion woman. Although Li Zongjiu's vision was blocked, the movement of the air around him was extremely clear. Voila! All of a sudden, a sword aura came from behind the Red Scorpion Woman. Apparently, the Red Scorpion Woman had sensed the emergence of this power. She immediately turned her head around. No! The sword aura rose and directly cut Red Scorpion Woman in half. It rushed towards Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu had already used the Hidden Dragon skill. He left an afterimage on the spot and appeared dozens of meters away, quietly watching the situation in front of him. Rumble. This sword aura spread out, and a gully that was nearly half a meter deep even appeared on the ground. Red Scorpion Woman had long been cut in half and was lying on the ground. The cut was very smooth, and there was still a force that was rapidly corroding Red Scorpion Woman's body. In just 2 breaths, Red Scorpion Woman's body was completely corroded. She became a pool of thick black substance and was left on the spot. Hiss! This Night King killed Red Scorpion Woman with a sword. What a domineering poison! Red Scorpion Woman was killed just like that. What a terrifying force! Extremely terrifying. Chapter 767. The one who made the move was the king who was born in the darkness. The Night King. This was because the Night King had not appeared for a long time. Some of the people who joined later had only heard of the Night King's fame, but had never seen the Night King in person. They even suspected that the Night King had been killed by someone. The gate of hell was gradually controlled by the Red Scorpion Woman. The Red Scorpion Woman became the boss here. Although the Night King's position was still reserved on the surface, it was no longer important. The Red Scorpion Woman could not even say a word now. Only those who were still alive had the right to talk about the difference in status. The Night King's sword also told everyone who was the boss here. You're really ruthless. You even killed your own people. Li Zongjiu looked at the Night King in front of him. Li Zongjiu saw a very similar temperament from the Night King. He was ruthless and did not talk much. Unfortunately, the Night King's strength was not worth mentioning in front of Li Zongjiu. Most importantly, the Night King was Li Zongjiu's enemy. In this case, it was even more important to not let the person in front of him live. Leave this place, and I will not kill you. The Night King also felt the threat from Li Zongjiu. Unless it was absolutely necessary, it would be best not to get into a conflict with Li Zongjiu. The reason why he had killed the Red Scorpion Lady with that sword was to establish his might for the people on the other side of the gates of hell, and also to tell Li Zongjiu that he was not someone to be trifled with. The power of that sword was enough to prove his strength. If he wanted to fight, it would not be easy for both sides. I'll give you a chance. Li Zongjiu looked at the Night King and said lightly. The Night King wanted to show off in front of Li Zongjiu. He was really overestimating himself. Kill yourself. When Li Zongjiu said these 4 words, the people watching from above the gates of hell were extremely shocked. Where did this brat get the courage to directly tell the Night King to kill himself? Let's not talk about whether you're a match for the Night Monarch. Even if you're on par with him, or even if you have a 70% chance of winning, you can't just let him kill himself. This really made everyone gasp in amazement, extremely shocked. Very good. When the Night King heard Li Zongjiu's words, he no longer hesitated. For him to say this, it meant that he was prepared. Li Zongjiu's thoughts were very clear. Everlasting darkness. The Night King gripped the pitch-black sword with both hands. At this moment, he seemed to be circulating all the elemental energy in his body and concentrating it on the sword in his hand. Boom! In the next instant, a gigantic creature charged out from the black sword. When this gigantic creature appeared, all the light in the world seemed to be absorbed by it. It rushed into the sky, then quickly swooped down and suddenly landed on the ground. Suddenly, a black wave spread out and directly covered Li Zongjiu. The people watching from above the gates of hell were shocked to find that the figures of Li Zongjiu and the Night King had actually disappeared in an instant. Without any warning, they directly disappeared in front of their eyes. Is this the legendary power of the domain? My God, the power of the domain, isn't that a power that can only be displayed by experts in the late stage of the Origin Emperor realm? The strength of the Night King is probably on par with the 5 giants of the Qingyuan villa. Feeling the emergence of this power, these people were extremely shocked. If the Night King wanted to kill them, it would be an easy task. They never thought that the Night King would be so powerful. No wonder it was so easy to kill the Red Scorpion. The Red Scorpion almost wanted to challenge the Night King's position in the gates of hell, but now it seemed that the Red Scorpion's strength was not qualified at all. This is the real Night King. With the Night King here, this kid will definitely die. The people above the gates of hell were also extremely shocked. And at this moment, the two disappeared for only a dozen breaths of time, and a muffled sound was heard. From the space above, a figure suddenly fell from the sky and fell in front of the gates of hell at an extremely fast speed. Boom! The figure fell heavily on the ground, his eyes were full of unwillingness, but at the same time, there was also a deep fear. His mouth was slightly open, and blood was constantly gushing out from his mouth. When the people saw the person who fell in front of them, one by one, they shouted in surprise. The Night King! This can't be real. Everyone saw that the corpse that fell on the ground was already occupied by fear. This person was the invincible expert that they had just mentioned. The expert that they were deeply impressed by. He was only at the Yuan monarch level, but he was able to release such a powerful move and consummate technique. Among all of you, this kid is considered not bad. Li Zhongzhou's figure also slowly descended above the gates of hell. At first, the people did not believe it. However, when they saw the pitch-black sword in Li Zhongzhou's hand, their mouths were so wide open that they could fit an egg in them. That was the sword in the Night King's hand. The Night King's sword. You! What are you trying to do? Someone finally could not take it anymore. Li Zhongzhou's strong oppression had now killed the 3 experts in the gates of hell. Now, Li Zhongzhou had killed them all. With such strength, wouldn't it be enough to make others feel despair? It seemed that no one could resist Li Zhongzhou. Even someone as strong as the Night King could only die tragically here. Even the weapon had been taken away by someone else. I've said it very clearly before. I'm here to destroy Qingyuan Manor. As his voice faded, Li Zhongzhou's eyes immediately changed. An incomparably sharp aura instantly locked onto everyone present. At this moment, there was an extremely clear thought in everyone's hearts. Li Zhongzhou had already become an extremely ferocious monster. Anyone who was targeted by Li Zhongzhou would have nowhere to run. Li Zhongzhou held the Night King's sword and rushed into the group of people. Some people wanted to resist but did not know how to do so. Some people wanted to escape but found that their legs could not move for the time being. The area around the gates of hell was suddenly covered in blood. Anyone who was cut by the Night King's sword was basically corroded by the poison on the sword. Li Zhongzhou casually chose some relatively clean storage rings. After all, some people were too weak. Even if they collected things, they would not be in good condition. Li Zhongzhou did not want to store so much garbage on his body. When the time came, he would throw all these things to Du Liani and let her deal with them. Naturally, it would be simpler. After Li Zhongzhou cleaned up the huge Qingyuan villa, he would definitely be able to gain a lot. As for the Night King in front of him, he really overestimated himself. The number of primitive emperor experts who died in Li Zhongzhou's hands was already innumerable. The power of the domain that the Night King developed was actually just a skill of his own original soul. It was not a real domain. It was in front of Li Zhongzhou's bloody soul hell. The Night King naturally understood what a real domain power was. In order to show his respect for his opponent, Li Zhongzhou let the Night King enjoy an extremely painful death. Based on the painful expression in his eyes, it was obvious that the Night King had been treated very well in the domain. Therefore, when Li Zhongzhou gave the Night King a chance, He had to cherish it. Otherwise, he would not have the chance to commit suicide even if he wanted to. As for the people at the gates of hell, none of them would be able to escape. He had already said that he was going to wipe out their families. Naturally, he would not let them go. The massacre continued until dawn. The blood above the Qingyuan manor had already flowed to the foot of the mountain, forming a stream of blood. It was hard to imagine how painful the blow to the Qingyuan manor had been. On the mountain peak. Qingyuan Manor. The blades of more than 300 blood strike guards were stained with blood. This was definitely going to be a difficult battle. Rather than rushing down now, they might as well wait for Li Zongjiu to walk right into their trap. The 3 blood strike guards of the 7 bronze rank wore frosty expressions. Their auras were like ice-cold blades that penetrated their spines. The blood strike guards behind them also looked like they were about to rush into Azura's field. A ray of morning light shone in front of the courtyard. Chapter 768. The 3 blood strike guard commanders raised their heads and looked at the sky. A flock of startled birds took flight and scattered in all directions. Aside from the 3 7 copper blood strike guards, there were 3 other blood strike guards. In front of the 3 of them was an old man over 50 years old. He had a head full of blood-red hair and his clothes were a sinister blood-red. There were a total of 8 copper coins embroidered on the weapon at his waist. An 8 copper blood strike guard. A cold light flickered. This person was the founder of the blood strike guard. No one knew his name. Everyone called him Blood Azura. He had been killing people his entire life and had never stopped. The number of people he had killed along the way was uncountable. If all the corpses were to be piled up, they would be enough to fill Luoxia City. All of you, open the door. Blood Azura growled. How could a mere wooden door stop Li Zongjiu, who had killed his way up the mountain? Since that was the case, they might as well open the door. They would let that kid walk into the great Azura formation formed by the 300 blood strike guards. Rumble. As the door was pushed open, everyone stared at the end of the stairs. Although the blood strike guards had killed people like scything flax and were already used to the concept of life and death, there was still an extremely special atmosphere today for some reason. Under this atmosphere, even they couldn't help but feel nervous. Whoosh! The surrounding air seemed to have become extremely heavy. Were you waiting for me? Suddenly, a voice descended from the sky. The door to the courtyard was immediately slammed shut by an invisible force. Then, a figure wielding the Night Monarch sword charged into the formation of the blood strike guards. No one had expected Li Zongjiu to be so swift and violent. He had completely adhered to the style of not giving any warning and not leaving anyone alive. With a slash of his sword, at least a dozen blood strike guards were instantly affected by the sword energy. That terrifying aura instantly condensed. Boom! Dozens of people were engulfed by the sword energy. Don't panic, get into formation. Blood Azura roared furiously, trying to calm the panicked blood strike guards down. However, Li Zongjiu was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. Many people didn't even see Li Zongjiu's figure clearly before Li Zongjiu's sword slit their throats. Bang! 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 One figure after another was sent flying. Even if it was just a small wound, the poison from the Night King's sword would directly corrode the person. On the way here, Li Zongjiu also found some very good herbs, so he refined some venom along the way and then tempered the Night King's sword. The poison on the Night King's sword was 3 times more than before. Pooh! My hand! No, the blood strike guards were like a flock of sheep being slaughtered by Li Zongjiu with ease. The so-called Great Array was difficult to congeal at the moment. One couldn't even find one's location. How was one supposed to set up an array when one couldn't even find one's location? Back off! Blood Azura couldn't help but roar. Immediately, the group of people retreated. However, Li Zongjiu followed after them. Corpses were strewn all over the ground. When they saw this scene, Blood Azura and the 3 bronze blood strike guards didn't hold back anymore. With a boom, the 3 of them unsheathed their swords and took the lead in killing anyone who couldn't avoid Li Zongjiu. Finally, the 4 of them surrounded Li Zongjiu. Currently, there were more than 200 corpses lying on the ground, some of which had already rotted away. The remaining blood-robed guards numbered no more than 50. They had never imagined that Li Zongjiu would be so strong. He had killed them all with ease. Blood strike guards, whom he had painstakingly nurtured, were cut down like cabbages by Li Zongjiu. Immediately, Blood Shura was enraged. Li Zongjiu, I will let you experience what it means to be a living hell. Blood Azura shouted. When Li Zongjiu heard Blood Azura's words, the corners of his mouth curled up. Is this the hell you're talking about? As soon as he finished speaking, Blood Azura and the remaining blood strike guards were sucked into the bloody soul hell. The surroundings were filled with a terrifying blood aura. This immediately caused the blood-robed guards to panic. At this moment, the ground beneath their feet was covered in blood. Such a tragic scene was incomparably thrilling in the eyes of these people. So much blood aura had gathered. The blood strike guards hurriedly tried to defend themselves. However, the pool of blood beneath their feet seemed to be hollow as it sucked them in. No! Save me! Save me! This is a place with everything. It was clear that the blood field that was spreading in all directions was an extremely terrifying thing to them. They were practically swallowed up by the blood. Pieces of flesh were peeled off from their bodies. This kind of situation caused them to be at a loss. This was because they discovered that their Yuan power was simply unable to resist the invasion of the baleful blood qi. They could only watch helplessly as their bodies melted away. No! The entire blood-soul hell was filled with howls of anguish. However, Li Zongjiu was busy dealing with the stronger blood strike guards in front of him. The rest of the weaker blood strike guards were unable to escape death. In the end, they were all reduced to miserable fates. Is this an illusion? Even Blood Azura, who was the strongest among them, was shocked. He was completely unprepared for what was happening around him. However, even if he used his toes to think, he knew that this wasn't an illusion. Li Zongjiu, you're courting death. Blood Azura had already decided to use his cruelest move to torture Li Zongjiu to death. However, Li Zongjiu's figure flashed and charged towards them. The 4 of them temporarily formed a small defensive circle. Given their powerful Yuan force, no energy would rush in for the time being. However, the miserable state of the bloody soul hell struck their hearts. In addition, the terrifying energy within the bloody soul hell continued to invade their bodies, making their defenses extremely weak. There weren't many chances to kill this kid. This was their only chance. First Azura slash. Blood Azura gathered his strength and slashed towards the sky. The terrifying energy swept out in an instant. Even the bloody soul hell itself trembled slightly. However, that was all it could do. If he wanted to break through the blood soul hell, he would need at least 100 Azura's first slashes to be effective. The bloody soul hell, which had been reformed once again, was now able to display a very strong power. It was enough to easily withstand the energy in front of them. Swoosh! Li Zongjiu's figure appeared beside a 7 bronze blood cloak guard. The Night Monarch sword in his hand easily took the life of the blood cloak guard. That person's eyes widened in horror as he stared intently in front of him. This was because this blood soul hell was continuously absorbing his strength. The Yuan power within his body was also involuntarily turned into nutrients for this blood soul hell. Old Bing! The remaining 2 7 bronze blood-robed guards exclaimed when they saw their comrade's body melting on the ground. This place was like an endless hell, and the only outcome for them was death. Moreover, it would be an extremely painful death. It made them despair and it was difficult to see any hope. Even Blood Azura seemed to be biting his finger and making some strange gestures on his body. It seemed like he wanted to use this method to stimulate the powerful energy in his body. Awaken, Azura Yuan spirit. Finally, in this life and death crisis, Blood Azura released his secret killing move in the face of a disaster. Azura Yuan spirit. Li Zongjiu's eyes lit up when he saw a blood-red figure appear on Blood Azura's body. Chapter 769. Interesting. Li Zongjiu looked at the changes in the person in front of him and the corners of his mouth rose. This was because the original spirit released by the Blood Shura was very similar to his Blood Soul Hell. Even their attributes were very similar. For example, Li Zongjiu's Blood Soul Hell was a sea, and the Azura original spirit was a drop of seawater. Merging with the seawater would completely increase the power of the seawater. I changed my mind. From now on, you will be the blood ghost of my Blood Soul Hell. Li Zongjiu immediately sneered. This guy had accumulated too many killings, resulting in the blood evil spirit all over his body. If he was added to Li Zongjiu's Blood Soul Hell, it would be the most suitable. The so-called blood ghost was just a name Li Zongjiu used. In essence, these were almost equivalent to puppets controlled by the Blood Soul Hell. You want to enslave me? You think you can? Blood Azura sat on the ground, and the 2 7-copper blood robe guards beside him were also protecting him. The Azura original spirit that suddenly appeared seemed to be very powerful. Being in the Blood Soul Hell, there seemed to be a kind of boiling power, which was not easy to be melted away. The one who spoke was the Azura origin spirit. The Azura origin spirit reached out with his hand, borrowing the power of Li Zongjiu's Blood Soul Hell to condense a blood blade in his hand. Interesting. The Azura original spirit became huge and then slashed at Li Zongjiu. However, before the blood blade fell in front of Li Zongjiu, it was melted by the power of the Blood Soul Hell. It seems that you still don't know the power of this realm. Li Zongjiu casually raised his hand. Then, the huge Azura original spirit was about to continue attacking, but suddenly, a figure attracted its attention. That is. The 2 7-copper blood robe guards suddenly opened their eyes wide. A gigantic blood dragon appeared in front of them. As the huge body of the blood dragon appeared, the terrifying commotion immediately stirred up the power of the blood sea around it. With a light sweep of its tail, it set off a terrifying wave of blood that covered the Azura origin spirit. Boom! The blood dragon swept out once more, instantly wrapping around the Azura original spirit. Pooh! Blood Shura, who had been sitting in his Azura original spirit form, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned deathly pale. Not good, this. When the two of them saw the Blood Azura sitting down, a wave of Blood Soul Hell's power invaded and surrounded the Blood Azura. Lord Azura, wake up! However, no matter how much they called out, there was no response. The blood dragon coiled around the Azura Yuan spirit's body. The Azura Yuan spirit was in great pain, but the Blood Azura was also suffering from a severe blow. Your Lord Azura won't wake up. Li Zongjiu looked at the 2 panicking men and said. The strength of the Blood Azura before them was similar to that of the Night Monarch. In Li Zongjiu's Blood Soul Hell, the Blood Azura's fate was obvious. If Li Zongjiu wanted to kill the Blood Azura, it would be a piece of cake. However, he had a sudden idea to refine the Azura Yuan spirit into a blood ghost that could wander in the Blood Soul Hell. Next time, if there were any ignorant people, he would directly throw them into the Blood Soul Hell and let the blood ghosts of the Blood Soul Hell play with them. There was no need for him to personally take action. The 2 7-copper blood strike guards could only watch helplessly as the Blood Soul Hell surged into a bloody wave and engulfed the demonic Blood Azura before them. The Azura Yuan spirit gradually calmed down. The blood dragon original spirit that Li Zongjiu had summoned also aimed its eyes at the two of them. It flew down from the Azura original spirit's body. When it looked at the two of them were obviously extremely nervous. This Come, let me test my new pet. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and dismissed the blood dragon Yuan spirit. Then, with a thought, the Azura Yuan spirit turned around and locked its gaze on the two of them. Boom! Without further ado, the Azura primordial spirit charged forward with a terrifying aura. The two men tried to resist, but they were directly enveloped by the Azura Yuan spirit's blade. In just 3 slashes, the two men were easily killed by the Azura Yuan spirit. Your power is not bad. I'll call you Blood Ghost number 1 from now on. Li Zongjiu looked at the Azura origin spirit in front of him with a satisfied look in his eyes. At the very least, with the same attributes, the Blood Azura's strength would increase rapidly. The changes in the future would definitely be extraordinary. He put away the Blood Soul Hell. Although the courtyard was filled with a strong smell of blood, there weren't many corpses on the scene. All the corpses had been digested by the Blood Soul Hell that Li Zongjiu had just unleashed. After all, they were all people at the Sky Origin Ancestor Realm or above. In addition, the blood aura on their bodies was relatively strong. Therefore, Li Zongjiu's collection of corpses was very effective for the growth of the Blood Soul Hell. Killing people was easy, but encountering people who were covered in blood was relatively rare. After all, many experts would try their best to eliminate the smell of blood on their bodies during the process of cultivation. Only by doing so would they be able to have a more stable cultivation path in the future and not have any mental problems. Most of the corpses had been covered up or even digested. However, these corpses were extremely precious to Li Zongjiu. They were a type of raw material that he liked very much. This courtyard was also considered the training courtyard of the Blood Strike Guard. San Tong had probably come from this training courtyard. Li Zongjiu flicked his finger and set the room in front of him ablaze. The Qingyuan Mountain Villa, which was an incomparably tranquil summer resort, was actually burning with raging flames. Boom! Qingyuan Mountain Villa, Grand Council. The Grand Council had been set up. The group of people in the left manor were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. The Blood Strike Guard and the others would definitely not be able to resist. The experts in the right manor had already been gathered. Given the strength of the experts in the right manor, more than half of them had already died before the battle had even begun. Now, the people in Zhua Manor were at most giving advice and suggestions. The leader of the left manor was called Jin Pantian. Originally, Zhantian was the second most powerful person in the left manor. This person called Jin Pantian was also an expert in divination. However, in terms of arrays, he was slightly inferior to Zhantian. When it came to feng shui and calculating dragon veins, Jin Pantian's strength was still very good. Moreover, Jin Pantian was one of the first batch of experts by King Qing Yuan's side. Don't panic. I will activate the Great Protective Array. The few of you will guard the base. We will definitely be able to kill this kid. This kid's blood qi is extremely dense. We must draw out his blood qi and release it, causing him to collapse without a fight. Jin Pantian was dressed in a long robe with stars and moon and held a golden abacus in his hand. His eyes were empty and unfocused. However, when Jin Pantian's gaze became sharp and dignified, it formed an extremely strong aura. This kind of power, which seemed to come from an unknown world, brought an invisible pressure to Jin Pantian. Yin Shengwu has been crippled. The 6 of you, together with Taishu, form a formation and guard the east. I will guard the north. Elder Jin, guard the south side. Leave the west side to it. Feng Hui said in a deep voice. Fortunately, Jin Pantian still didn't know the cause of Zhantian's death. If Jin Pantian knew that they were the ones who had caused Zhantian's death, he would probably throw them out without hesitation. However, they had all returned. If they could eliminate Li Zongjiu and Jin Pantian at the same time, they wouldn't need to divide the left and right manors in the future. Everything would be decided by the people of the right manor. In fact, Feng Hui didn't believe in feng shui and fortune-telling. He only believed in himself. If you were a fortune teller, why didn't you predict that you would die today? Are we really going to let that guy out? When this guy was mentioned, everyone was shocked. Chapter 770. There was even a sense of dread that was slowly creeping in. Are we really going to use that thing? Jean Pantian also frowned as he looked at Feng Hui. Unless it was absolutely necessary, summoning that thing would definitely be a very dangerous thing to do. Look at our situation and you'll understand. However, if we want to break through the West Gate, we have to break through our 3 stages first. I won't make such a choice until the very last moment. Feng Hui said solemnly. In fact, Jean Pantian also knew that Li Zongjiu might be extremely powerful. Otherwise, Guan Zhu and Zhantian wouldn't have died tragically under the dragon vein. Jean Pantian was actually extremely shocked when he heard such grievous news. One of them was an array master, while the other was an primitive emperor powerhouse. Just the death of one of them was already shocking enough. Now that 2 of them had died at once, it was a huge loss for Qingyuan Manor. When he saw a raging fire burning in front of Qingyuan Manor, Jean Pantian waved his hand. With a wave of his hand, Jean Pantian signaled for everyone to return to their positions. Get ready to welcome the arrival of the enemy. Now, there were only 6 protectors left in Qingyuan Manor. They were no longer a threat to Li Zongjiu. The 2 protectors who had died outside weren't innocent at all. Great Void's sun-reflecting mirror had already been destroyed by Li Zongjiu. Great Void himself had also been severely injured. Now, he had to follow the 6 protectors and hold down the fort. The situation was extremely dire. Li Zongjiu set the fire in front of him. He glanced in the direction of the backyard. Qingyuan Manor was really a coward. Just as he was about to rush over, his mental energy suddenly discovered that there seemed to be a gap at the bottom of the training courtyard. This should be a prison, right? Li Zongjiu felt that there seemed to be many signs of activity below. Li Zongjiu immediately looked around. The rockery at the side was a hidden entrance, which Li Zongjiu discovered. Immediately, Li Zongjiu stepped forward and smashed his fist on the rockery, creating an entrance. As he walked down the stairs, the surrounding environment was dark and damp. There was no light to speak of. Li Zongjiu ignited a flame between his fingers, illuminating the environment in front of him. Both sides were sealed by cages forged by the mysterious heavens. Within the iron fence, there were countless gazes staring in the direction of Li Zongjiu. Some of these people's gazes were extremely fierce, while others were dull and lifeless. Whoosh! Li Zongjiu flicked his finger and the iron fences in front of him opened. Give up, you bastards! I, Wei Pingjiang, would rather die than serve the Qingyuan mountain villa. The deep voice of a middle-aged man came from the deepest cage, giving people a feeling that it was as tough as a mountain. Li Zongjiu was stunned when he heard this. Wei Pingjiang. Li Zongjiu was shocked because even Li Zongjiu had not expected that Wei Pingjiang would actually appear here. As a member of the Shengyan dynasty, the young people of this generation had all grown up listening to Wei Pingjiang's story. It was rumored that Wei Pingjiang had started practicing martial arts at the age of 3 and had already become a Yuan adept expert at the age of 5. He had become a Yuan general at the age of 13. At the age of 15 or 16, he had already joined the Green Dragon Army, one of the 4 trump cards of the dynasty, and his strength had reached the Yuan ancestor level. He had become a Yuan monarch elite at the age of 20 and had directly become the commander of the 1st Cavalry Division of the Green Dragon Army. In the army, he had the reputation of being brave and good at fighting. He was also an extremely talented war genius. Before Li Zongjiu had entered the Foggy Snow Alchemy sect and was still the young master of the Li family, he had naturally yearned for Wei Pingjiang's achievements. After entering the Foggy Snow Alchemy sect, there had been no more news. Then, he had heard that Wei Pingjiang had died in battle in the Demon Ridge of the Wasteland. The demon ridge of the wasteland was filled with yuan beasts and many elites. Furthermore, they often launched sneak attacks on the Shengyan dynasty. The Green Dragon army was stationed here to resist the yuan beasts in the demon ridge, as well as some attacks from the demon race. The people who should have died on the battlefield had unexpectedly appeared here. Li Zongjiu was also rather surprised. After all, Wei Pingjiang's strength was still very good. Even in the later stages, Wei Pingjiang had been able to reappear after the destruction of Qingyuan Mountain Villa. However, during that period of time, Li Zongjiu was still struggling in an environment. He didn't know much about the encounters of the famous people in the world. It could even be said that he didn't care much about these things. You are Wei Pingjiang. Li Zongjiu arrived at the prison cell and discovered that there was a person shackled in 3 layers of shackles. When he saw the person before him, Li Zongjiu was clearly a little surprised. A genius warlord of a generation was now in such dire straits. Wei Pingjiang was clearly only a middle-aged man and only a few years older than Li Zongjiu. However, just like Li Zongjiu, Wei Pingjiang did not look like an expert at all. He was clearly just a very dispirited middle-aged man. Where did you come from? I've never seen you before, little thing. Wei Pingjiang looked at Li Zongjiu in disdain and realized that Li Zongjiu was only a child in his teens. Could it be that Qingyuan Mountain Villa had no other choice but to let such a child torture him? If that was the case, then Qingyuan Mountain Villa was really a piece of trash. They still wanted Wei Pingjiang to work for them with such a level of skill. It really made him laugh his head off. You're still so arrogant even after having your shoulder blades pierced. As expected of Wei Pingjiang. Li Zongjiu looked at Wei Pingjiang's state. This guy had probably been captured for 2 years. However, under these 2 years of torture, he actually did not surrender or compromise. This made Li Zongjiu very impressed. However, Li Zongjiu did not like people being too arrogant in front of him. Even this legendary figure was the same. In the past, people like you had some qualifications to jump around in front of me, Li Zongjiu. But now, people like you no longer have such qualifications. When Wei Pingjiang heard Li Zongjiu's words, he was somewhat puzzled. What was this kid talking about? Was he stupid? In the next second, he saw Li Zongjiu raise his hand. Then, a sharp aura easily cut off the metal chain behind Wei Pingjiang. Bang! In many years, this was the first time Wei Pingjiang left the chain. When Wei Pingjiang landed on the ground, he even felt that the heavy shackles on his back had been removed. He felt as if he had been released. Obviously, Wei Pingjiang even thought that he was dreaming. When he was captured by these people, he thought that there was a chance for him to escape. But later on, he gradually fell into despair. This was because the mastermind behind this seemed to be very powerful. Even Wei Pingjiang's family couldn't find any clues. Therefore, even if they knew that Wei Pingjiang was still alive, it was extremely difficult, let alone find out where Wei Pingjiang was. This elixir will help with your injuries. I want to see how far you can go. Li Zongjiu looked at Wei Pingjiang with the attitude of an expert. Suddenly, Wei Pingjiang felt as if he had been enlightened. Could it be that the outside world had become like this in just 2 years after he was captured? From the looks of it, a teenager seemed to have broken into the secret dungeon of Qingyuan Mountain Villa. All the prison cells were opened. Among these people, there were many who had previously dominated a region, or people who had very special talents in a certain area. After being caught, if you were unwilling to work for Qingyuan Manor, then you would be beaten up and tortured endlessly. Looking at the elixir on the ground and hesitating, Wei Pingjiang raised his head and saw Li Zongjiu turn around and leave. When he left, Li Zongjiu gave everyone in the cell a grade 5 elixir. No matter what attribute the elixir was, when it reached grade 5, it would have the effect of recovering yuan power and healing injuries. Chapter 771. The people in the dungeon were not clear about the situation, but there were some who knew what was going on. Moreover, they were suddenly released. For them, this was a rare opportunity. Some of the people who knew what was going on recognized that the grade 5 pill in their hands had extraordinary effects. They immediately swallowed it. Wei Pingjiang also directly refined the elixir. His cultivation base had been sealed for nearly 2 years. Fortunately, Wei Pingjiang's cultivation base was relatively strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to survive until now. While he was refining the elixir, Wei Pingjiang was also thinking about who that brat was. Some people had already rushed out and found that the surroundings were a sea of fire. Although there weren't any corpses on the ground, experienced people could tell at a glance that this place had experienced a great massacre. Many people ran down the mountain directly. As they ran down the mountain, they saw the corpses all over the ground and immediately understood that someone had destroyed Qingyuan Mountain Villa. Could it be that Qingyuan Mountain Villa was attacked by someone? They even dared to attack Qingyuan Mountain Villa. What kind of person is this? Many people were extremely shocked. They didn't even dare to believe their own eyes. The scene they saw was actually the Qingyuan Villa being engulfed by the raging flames. I never thought that I would be able to see the light of day again. Some people directly knelt down in front of the sky and earth. They sighed inwardly. Being able to escape with their lives and breathe the fresh air of the outside world was an extremely precious thing for them. Many people also refined the elixir on the spot. They didn't know the dangers of the outside world, so it was more important to ensure their own strength first. That way, even if they encountered some special circumstances, they would be able to ensure that they had a certain chance and the ability to resist. They wouldn't be caught before they could rush out. In that case, wouldn't this be a waste of this opportunity? My Yuan power. This elixir. Wei Pingjiang opened his eyes. Within his eyes, there was an extremely incredulous glint. As he looked at his hands, he felt the surging Yuan power that had already recovered in his body. This immediately caused Wei Pingjiang and himself to become excited. This was because Wei Pingjiang was shocked to discover that his Yuan power had actually reached the peak of the Yuan monarch realm after accumulating for 2 years. General Wei. We don't want to die blindly in such a situation. We'll listen to what you say next. A few figures stood in front of Wei Pingjiang. Some of these people had just been caught, and some had been caught for even longer than Wei Pingjiang. However, they were all famous experts in the underworld before this, and each of them had their own specialties. Now, they were inexplicably rescued by someone. It was inevitable that there was some sort of trap in this. Wei Pingjiang was a famous war god. It wasn't just because he was strong, but also because of his leadership and commanding ability. Therefore, those who were slightly smarter would stand on Wei Pingjiang's side without hesitation and wait for Wei Pingjiang's orders. Since everyone thinks highly of me, I will definitely do my best. Wei Pingjiang said with a trembling voice. The cellmates in the prison cell also knew of Wei Pingjiang's strength and perseverance. After all, they had all seen Wei Pingjiang endure some torture, but Wei Pingjiang had endured all of it. He was indeed worthy of being the commander of the Green Dragon Army's 1st Cavalry Regiment. He had received the title of God of War when he was young, and even now, he was still very powerful. However, when these people rushed out, they were shocked to find that Qingyuan Mountain Villa had already been burned down. There were no guards around. Some people were shocked and they saw the countless piles of corpses on the road at the foot of the mountain. The scene that appeared before their eyes was already extremely impactful to them. They're all dead. Wei Pingjiang's face was also full of shock. When he recalled that young man, he seemed to be very strong. It seemed like all of this had a lot to do with that young man. Since the guards are dead, we will bid farewell here. We will meet again in the underworld. Wei Pingjiang cupped his hands towards these people. These people were also eager for freedom. With such a good opportunity, they would be able to obtain freedom if they left directly. Of course, they were extremely excited. However, when they saw Wei Pingjiang, they were also puzzled. General? Are you going to stay here? The young man who saved me, I want to know who he is. Wei Pingjiang glanced at the depths of Qing Yuan Mountain Villa. Now that his strength had recovered, Wei Pingjiang's confidence had also greatly increased. The mysterious young man, Li Zongjiu, had saved Wei Pingjiang's life. He would repay kindness with kindness, and revenge with revenge. Wei Pingjiang would definitely not let them have an easy time in Qing Yuan Mountain Villa. Boom! Just as Wei Pingjiang and the others were talking, an extremely strong shock suddenly came from the depths of the villa. It was as if the surrounding energy was rapidly fluctuating and attacking. The bricks on the ground seemed to have been shaken to the point that they flew up. Then, they fell back to their original positions. When Wei Pingjiang and the others saw this, they also looked towards the depths of the villa. They're still fighting. Immediately, Wei Pingjiang's figure also leaped forward and rushed towards the front. Some of the people who rushed out with Wei Pingjiang also turned and rushed down the mountain. Although they hated Qing Yuan Mountain Villa to the bone, they didn't have the guts to stay and fight against Qing Yuan Mountain Villa. However, there were also 3 people who chose to chase after Wei Pingjiang. Qing Yuan Mountain Villa killed my family. I can't let them go. That's right. Qing Yuan Mountain Villa killed my lover. In this life, Qing Yuan Mountain Villa will not rest until one of us is dead. My entire family was massacred by Qing Yuan Mountain Villa in order to force me to cultivate the Heaven's Hatred Blade. Since these people are looking forward to my Heaven's Hatred Blade so much, I can't let them down. A white-haired man's eyes were filled with sorrow. His body also emitted a bone-piercing sorrow. People couldn't help but guess what kind of despair he had experienced. At this moment, in Qing Yuan Mountain Villa, Jean Pantian and the others were really in the midst of a fierce battle. The scene of frenzied killing came from the fierce resistance of the enemy, which also made them clench their teeth. Damn this kid! How terrifying is he! The array is about to break. Behind Taishu, of the 6 great Qing Yuan Manor protectors, only 3 of them were still able to barely stand. The other 3 were directly beaten until their bodies exploded and they died on the spot. Tai Su and the remaining 3 protectors used their own strength to fuse into the array, forming a Tai Su longsword. However, Li Zongjiu's desolate heaven essence was able to shake their Tai Su longsword to the brink of shattering it. Sometimes, Li Zongjiu would smash it several times in a row. It was as if the Tai Su longsword was shattered into pieces. Peng! Tai Su was using all his strength to circulate his yuan qi when he suddenly felt a chill behind him. He turned his head. The 3 protectors behind him had already turned into a pile of meat paste. Their blood splattered on Tai Su's body, resulting in such a situation. How can this be? Tai Su was shocked. In the next moment, Tai Su saw a huge golden palm coming down from outside the array. Boom! When the palm came down, Tai Su hurriedly retracted his strength and dodged into the distance. He didn't even have the chance to block it and could only flee in panic. Li Zongjiu's palm was only executed based on his intuition. After all, Li Zongjiu was still trapped in the array and couldn't find the exact location of these people. Tai Su dodged in a panic, but in the end, one of his legs was still hit by the palm. Immediately, his leg exploded. Ah! My leg! Bam! The leg was like a bubble, disappearing from the body of the Great Void. Jean Pantian sensed the situation of Tai Su and the others, and his heart immediately sank. The east side has been broken. Feng Hui, hurry up and bring Taishu back. Jean Pantian held an abacus in his hand. He himself was guarding the north side of the array, and at the same time, controlling the array. Chapter 772. At this moment, Li Zongjiu was indeed trapped within the formation. However, the array's attacks were unable to harm Li Zongjiu at all. To Li Zongjiu, this did not pose any threat at all. However, it would take some time for him to walk out of the array. That guy who condensed into a sword should have been severely injured by me. Li Zongjiu had just randomly chosen a direction and made a small attempt. Who knew that he would really be hit by him? That guy could only blame himself for being unlucky. Suddenly, a huge abacus fell from the sky. It was as if a mountain had smashed down. Li Zongjiu stood in his original spot. He might have been smashed into a cripple. However, Jean Pantian had miscalculated. With a wave of his fist, he sent the abacus flying. Following that, Li Zongjiu also found a direction in the vast expanse and quickly rushed over. This position. It was also the west side of the array. Originally, they had gathered everyone's strength to trap Li Zongjiu in the array. Then, Li Zongjiu would be like a turtle in a jar, with only death awaiting him. However, they did not expect Li Zongjiu's resistance to be so strong and powerful. Boom! A six-eared fire monkey as tall as a mountain suddenly leaped and appeared in front of Li Zongjiu. Roar! The six-eared fire monkey spat out a terrifying flame at Li Zongjiu, instantly engulfing Li Zongjiu. The flames swept over, forming a sea of fire. However, the six-eared fire monkey's ears twitched slightly, as if it had caught on to something. In the next second, it saw Li Zongjiu break through the flames in front of it. Rising from the endless sea of fire, he raised the desolate heaven essence and smashed it down on the six-eared fire monkey's head. However, in the eyes of the six-eared fire monkey, Li Zongjiu was like a tiny ant. When it saw Li Zongjiu's staff coming down, it raised its hand and grabbed Li Zongjiu. Then, it threw Li Zongjiu to the ground. Boom! The surging power seemed to have trapped Li Zongjiu's body. With a loud sound, Li Zongjiu was thrown to the ground. Li Zongjiu, do you really think that you can destroy Qingyuan Manor? Feng Hui's voice sounded. Upon closer inspection, it was the six-eared fire monkey that was speaking. The six-eared fire monkey was Feng Hui's original soul, which was equivalent to Feng Hui's incarnation. Therefore, it wasn't strange that it could speak. It seemed that after throwing Li Zongjiu to the ground, Feng Hui had become rather confident. A huge abacus abruptly turned into power and instantly covered the land in front of him. Wang! Then, the surroundings seemed to have formed a huge maze, constantly obstructing Li Zongjiu's footsteps. The maze that appeared was also formed by the golden abacus. Li Zongjiu wanted to destroy the maze, but he found that the power above was too terrifying. There was no way to rush out. If you want to break my heavenly golden abacus, I'm afraid you need to be a 5th-grade primitive emperor. Jean Pontien's voice rang out from within the array. Jean Pontien's voice sounded very proud and confident. He had absolute confidence that Li Zongjiu wouldn't be able to rush out of the heavenly golden abacus. Boom! Suddenly, flames surged over from the front, crazily roaming within the maze. Such a terrifying power was rapidly approaching. When he saw the flames coming, Li Zongjiu could only support his own yuan power. Boom! The power of the six-eared fire monkey's flames was also very terrifying. Otherwise, Feng Hui wouldn't have been able to grow to his current state. The flames continued to strengthen Li Zongjiu, who was trapped in the flames, didn't seem to move at all. Feng Hui and Jean Pantian were overjoyed when they saw this. They had finally trapped Li Zongjiu. They had to make this arrogant Li Zongjiu pay the price. Otherwise, Li Zongjiu would think that their Qingyuan mountain villa was a gathering place for trash, where he could come and go as he pleased. At this moment, a golden light suddenly burst out from the sea of fire. When the golden light emerged, it was like a golden arrow piercing through the air. Then, Li Zongjiu's figure finally broke free. Boom! Li Zongjiu's golden light extinguished the sea of flames in front of him. What is that? The two of them looked through the eye of the array and saw a huge object filled with golden light emerge. When they saw this scene, they were both shocked. That's a golden dragon, the golden dragon origin spirit. When Li Zongjiu's golden dragon true spirit was released, he no longer felt the pressure around him. The flames of the six-eared fire monkey posed no threat to Li Zongjiu. What a broken thing. Li Zongjiu flew up and punched out. The power of the golden dragon original spirit instantly exploded in front of him. Boom! The maze formed by the so-called heavenly gold abacus was instantly shattered by Li Zongjiu's punch. The heavenly gold abacus was blown to pieces. Jean Pantian, who was outside the array, spat out a mouthful of blood. The heavenly gold abacus was considered a natal treasure for him, but it was destroyed by Li Zongjiu with just one move. After destroying the heavenly gold abacus, Li Zongjiu rushed forward. The six-eared fire monkey lifted its leg and landed. However, Li Zongjiu's punch was imbued with the power of the flight of the golden dragon. It sent the six-eared fire monkey flying. Whoosh! The six-eared fire monkey's huge body fell to the ground, unable to get up. Li Zongjiu leaped again and landed on the six-eared fire monkey's head. He stared into the six-eared fire monkey's eyes. It was as if he could see Feng Hui in front of him through its eyes. You! What are you trying to do? Feng Hui's body trembled slightly when he saw Li Zongjiu's actions. He had no idea what Li Zongjiu was going to do, but he could guess that Li Zongjiu was going to do something terrifying. The last thing Feng Hui saw through the six-eared fire monkey's eyes was Li Zongjiu's cold smile. Pfft! Feng Hui immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, Feng Hui's face turned ashen, as if he had just lost his son. My six-eared fire monkey! Feng Hui cried out. Feng Hui also suffered a huge blow from this incident. The death of the six-eared fire monkey would be a huge blow to Feng Hui's strength. Now, the best moves of these two experts had been destroyed by Li Zongjiu. It was hard to accept. Feng Hui, who was filled with grief and indignation, revealed a trace of determination in his eyes. Li Zongjiu, you forced me to do this. In his grief and indignation, Feng Hui took out a pitch-black key from his bosom. Just by looking at it, one could tell that this key had a ferocious aura. Feng Hui quickly got up and opened a manhole cover. With a leap, he seemed to have descended a distance of nearly 50 meters. Finally, 50 meters underground, a stone door made of the extremely precious black gold stone appeared. The black gold stone's special characteristic was that it was hard. Another special characteristic was that it could isolate auras. It could isolate the auras of the inner and outer worlds. It was obvious that this prison cell was built with black gold stones. Li Zongjiu, you asked for it. Feng Hui felt very happy when he thought about how Li Zongjiu was going to be torn to pieces by the thing inside. As he thought about it, he quickly inserted the key in his hand into the keyhole of the door and turned it gently. Gotcha! Chapter 773. Wei Pingjiang and the other three rushed up to the roof, but they discovered that the area in front of them had already been enveloped by a terrifying power. It was difficult for outsiders to enter. It's the power of a formation. They actually activated the mountain protecting formation. It seems like these people from the Qing Yuan Villa have met a tough opponent. The white-haired man from the Heaven Hatred Blade seemed to be quite knowledgeable. With just a glance, he determined that this was within the range of the mountain protecting formation of the Qing Yuan Villa. After the formation was activated, the people inside couldn't come out, and the people outside couldn't enter. They'll only remove the formation when the people inside die. Wei Pingjiang said in a deep voice. Let's wait here for a while. The four of them also meditated on the spot. While waiting for the situation to change, they were also trying their best to recover their yuan power. Only after adjusting their condition to the peak would they have enough strength to fight against these people. Otherwise, they would just be throwing their lives away. However, since these people dared to barge into the Qing Yuan villa and even forced out the mountain protecting formation, it was enough to prove that these people's strength wasn't simple. They didn't know where these people came from. Could it be that they were people from the Shengyan dynasty's imperial court who came specifically to deal with the Qing Yuan villa? While Wei Pingjiang and the others were waiting here. Suddenly, they raised their heads and saw dark clouds surging in the sky. It was originally daytime, but it was just past noon. The appearance of these dark clouds in the sky was clearly somewhat unusual. Not good. I heard before that there seems to be a devil sealed beneath the Qingyuan mountain villa. Demon? What's a demon? When Wei Pingjiang was captured, he had also heard people say that the Qing Yuan villa seemed to be a gathering place with extremely deep resentment. Moreover, there was an extremely terrifying demon sealed under the Qing Yuan villa. As for what this demon wasn't transformed from a human. It was a real demon that was incomparably bloodthirsty. The root of the matter could be traced back to a long time ago. However, the matter at that time had nothing to do with the present. The final result was that it led to the defeat and extinction of the demon race. However, some demons with extremely deep resentment couldn't be killed so easily. The human experts could only seal them and find a specialized person to watch over them. The Qing Yuan villa was built on the Qing Yuan mountain to suppress this demon. The huge Qing Yuan villa, in addition to the 3 cities below, actually formed a set of true demon-suppressing formation. And now, this incomparably terrifying and incomparably ferocious demon was about to emerge from the ground. The seal was directly lifted. Terrifying demonic energy seemed to be gushing out crazily from the ground. Even Li Zongjiu, who was inside the formation, was stunned. Demon energy? When Li Zongjiu felt the aura of the demon race, he was also startled. The calamity of the demon race only broke out in the later years of Li Zongjiu's life. Back then, Li Zongjiu was the main force that annihilated the demon race. Many of his treasures were also obtained from the demon race. Therefore, when Li Zongjiu felt the demon energy, he was naturally incomparably familiar with it. Even back then, when he used the evil soul eye, it was during a battle with the demon race that he accidentally discovered that he could use such a move. This was originally something that happened 1,000 years later. However, the demon energy had unexpectedly appeared in advance. It's just a small demon. After feeling this aura, Li Zongjiu wasn't very nervous. However, he was extremely curious about the appearance of the demon energy. Could it be that everything he had done had triggered the calamity of the demon race and caused it to break out in advance? It doesn't matter if it breaks out. If these stupid demons really dare to come out and cause trouble, I'll really annihilate them. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. As he was thinking about it, he saw a figure that was nearly 10 meters tall. It walked out of the thick white fog, carrying an extremely heavy iron axe on its shoulder. This iron axe had a few cracks on it. From the looks of it, this giant's appearance was similar to that of the bear man. It was panting heavily. Its eyes were as big as copper bells as it stared directly at Li Zongjiu in front of it. A ferocious aura erupted. Feng Hui and Jin Pantian could be considered the last of the resistance. There was also a half-crippled Great Void expert lying behind them. It had to be said that these 3 people were the last people left in Qingyuan Manor. As for the maids and servants, they would basically hide if there was a problem. This ancient demon's strength is comparable to that of a 7th-grade origin emperor. With this ancient demon, it's enough to smash Li Zongjiu into pieces. Although Jin Pantian also knew the danger of the ancient demon race, he was still in the face of such a ferocious Li Zongjiu. Moreover, Li Zongjiu had broken Li Zongjiu's heavenly golden abacus not long ago. That was a weapon that he had spent his entire life to create. Now, it had been destroyed by Li Zongjiu. It could be said that he hated Li Zongjiu to the core. He couldn't wait to chop Li Zongjiu to death under his feet. The ancient demon race. Li Zongjiu will definitely die. Prepare a trap. After this demon kills Li Zongjiu, we'll lock him back," Jean Pantheon said in a low voice. If they released something that wanted to destroy them in order to get rid of Li Zongjiu, it would be very bad for them. Now, even if they killed Li Zongjiu, it would be difficult to make up for the loss of Qingyuan Manor even with Li Zongjiu's life. Just by recruiting so many experts, in addition to the prisoners in the dungeon, the many years of planning could be said to have been destroyed. This made Jean Pantheon furious. There was no way to salvage the situation. If the villa lord came out of seclusion and saw the ruins of the Qingyuan villa, what kind of thoughts would he have? They also wanted to inform the manor lord of this news so that he could come out of seclusion sooner. However, King Qingyuan was in seclusion. There was no way for outsiders to contact King Qingyuan, who was in seclusion, so they could only be anxious that Li Zongjiu should be dead. This was because the aura of the demon clan was like a kind of poison to origin qi cultivators. There was simply no way to resist the invasion of this poisonous gas. Furthermore, it would bring about an extremely troublesome and deep-rooted injury. It was not something that could be easily removed. Therefore, they did not dare to come into close contact with this ancient demon. Instead, they directly threw this ancient demon into the formation. They let it fight with Li Zongjiu. Even if Li Zongjiu used all of his means, it was impossible for him to be the ancient demon clan's opponent. Boom! Just as the two of them were discussing whether to open the array's eye to take a look, suddenly, the array disc in front of them was destroyed. It was as if it had exploded on the spot. It even gave Jean Pantheon a fright. How could the array disc explode? Whoosh! A black wind blew past. When Feng Hui raised his head and saw the scene, his body froze on the spot. He could not believe what he was seeing. "What's wrong with you?" Jean Pantheon was confused when he saw Feng Hui's dazed gaze. However, as soon as he turned his head, he saw a huge axe falling towards him. Boom! The domineering axe chopped down on Jean Panthéon's head. Bang! Jean Pantheon looked like a pile of dog poop that had been flattened. There was no sign of life left. This is impossible. Seeing Jean Panthéon's fate, Feng Hui suddenly let out an extremely tragic cry. This was because the one who killed Jean Pantheon was the ancient demon that he had released. This was supposed to be the last line of defense, the last trump card. Who would have thought that this ancient demon clan would turn against him? No, this ancient demon clan is being controlled by that brat. At this critical juncture, Feng Hui still managed to spot Li Zongjiu, who was walking behind the devil, at a glance. He was walking leisurely, as if he was taking a stroll. When he saw Li Zongjiu approaching, Feng Hui's heart was filled with despair. Li Zongjiu waved his hand gently, and the ancient demon clan raised the axe in its hand again. Boom! Chapter 774. Feng Hui had been entrenched in Qingyuan Mountain Villa for such a long time. Now, he was buried by the soil of Qingyuan Mountain Villa. The power of the ancient demon's axe was incomparably domineering. It directly shattered more than half of Qingyuan Mountain. When such a terrifying power landed on a person's body, there was not even the slightest bit of pain. Even Tai Su, who was lying on the ground, was directly crippled. When the array formation shattered, Wei Pingjiang and the others also quickly rushed in. They wanted to see what exactly was going on in the Qingyuan villa. However, all they saw was a large piece of ruins and two figures standing on the ground. One of the figures was 5 feet tall, and the axe in his hand was also 3 feet long. Just looking at it made one feel a kind of fear that seeped into one's bones. The ancient demon clan member seemed to have caught a whiff of Li Zongjiu's scent and turned his head abruptly. Naturally, Li Zongjiu also saw Wei Pingjiang behind him. "What are you doing here? Are you not afraid of death?" Li Zongjiu said. At this moment, Wei Pingjiang and the others looked at the ancient demon in front of them, the mess around them, and the few lumps of meat on the ground. They immediately understood that Li Zongjiu had actually beaten up Qing Yuan Mountain Villa to such a state. There was actually no one else at the scene. Everything was done by Li Zongjiu. It was truly shocking and horrifying. Li Zongjiu's strength was actually so terrifying. You destroyed Qing Yuan Mountain Villa. This ancient demon, Wei Pingjiang naturally knew of the existence of this ancient demon. Wei Pingjiang's Green Dragon army had always been fighting against the demon clan. It was not surprising that he knew of this ancient demon. However, wasn't this ancient demon the seal of Qing Yuan Mountain Villa? Why did it now seem like it was controlled by Li Zongjiu? However, before Li Zongjiu could reply to them, the ancient demon once again turned around and looked at the cave behind the courtyard. If they hadn't destroyed all the houses in the villa, they would have died. Even then, he wouldn't be able to see the cave at the back of the mountain. There were 2 words carved on top of the cave: forbidden area. You don't want to come out? Then I'll force you out. Li Zongjiu said calmly. With a thought, the ancient demon controlled by Li Zongjiu once again raised the axe in his hand and chopped at the cave. Boom! A terrifying aura blew out the cave in front of him. Then, he saw a figure sitting cross-legged on a stone platform. He was wearing a white shirt and overcoat. As he sat there, his aura seemed to be extremely solemn and dignified, causing ordinary people to not dare to approach him. Just one look at it would make one feel like kneeling down. He looked dignified. There was also a purple light protecting his body. When the ancient demon race's thunderclap axe landed on the purple protective light, it didn't even budge in the slightest. Of course. Wei Pingjiang and the others immediately saw the figure. They were shocked and stared at the figure in front of them with their eyes wide open. The 3 of them gnashed their teeth in hatred. Although the killing of their family members was probably not ordered by this person, it was also because of this person's protection that the people below could be so arrogant and despotic, and do such things. Therefore, the person in front of them was the real culprit. King Qing Yuan. This person is King Qing Yuan. I'm going to fight with him. Are you stupid? You'll die in vain if you rush up. Tian Hen Yi Dao almost rushed up directly. Fortunately, Wei Pingjiang stopped him. Wei Pingjiang knew the strength of King Qing Yuan. He was a genuine primitive emperor expert. There was a reason why the Saint Flame Empire was able to prosper for such a long time. The bloodline of the imperial family was extremely powerful. Especially the bloodline and talent of the previous generation, it was so powerful that it was heaven-defying. It was rumored that the cultivation of the Saint Flame Emperor had already reached the sovereign realm. As the younger brother of Emperor Xingyan, King Qing Yuan naturally had his own ability to survive until now. Even if his cultivation wasn't as good as Emperor Xingyan's, it wouldn't be too far off. The reason why Qing Yuan Villa was able to reach its current scale and strength was because of King Qing Yuan standing behind it. It was the middle-aged man in front of them. His hair was slightly white, and his clothes were simple and plain. When he was interrupted in his cultivation, he slowly opened his eyes. It was just a look, but it was like a power that penetrated through the ages. It immediately made Wei Pingjiang and the others feel a burning sensation in their hearts. It was as if the blood in their bodies would spurt out in the next moment. Phew! Only by forcefully circulating the elemental energy in his body did he manage to temporarily suppress the agitation in his body. However, their faces were also filled with incomparable horror. Just this gaze alone was enough to make them feel as if their bodies were boiling. If they were to get closer and make any movements, wouldn't their bodies explode and die in a matter of minutes? Is this the pressure of the primitive emperor realm? Although Wei Pingjiang was a genius, there was still a long way to go before he could break through to the primitive emperor realm. Who knew how long it would take to reach King Qing Yuan's level? Li Zongjiu also focused his attention on King Qing Yuan. Li Zongjiu didn't care about these people before. Although Li Zongjiu's current cultivation was only at the 9th grade Yuan monarch realm, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill any Yuan monarchs below the 3rd grade. With the help of the Desolate Heaven Essence, he could resist a 4th grade or even a 5th grade Yuan monarch. If it was a 6th grade primitive emperor, it would be a little more strenuous. His chances of winning would be around 80%. This would depend on the situation. If the other party wanted to leave, Li Zongjiu wouldn't be able to stop him. If it was a 7th grade primitive emperor, the chances of winning would be 50-50. If Li Zongjiu wanted to leave, the 7th grade primitive emperor wouldn't be able to stop him. He might even have to pay a greater price. With such terrifying combat strength, it was no wonder that he didn't care about the people from Qingyuan Manor. In Li Zongjiu's eyes, these people were just stepping stones. He was already invincible in his previous life. In this life, he should be overbearing. 8th grade primitive emperor. Li Zongjiu said slowly when he sensed King Qingyuan's aura. It was indeed out of Li Zongjiu's expectations. Although he was surprised, the ancient demon in front of him was also a pleasant surprise. But if he wanted to kill someone, he had to be quick. After all, Li Zongjiu's evil soul couldn't control him for long. When the time was up, the ancient demon would regain his senses and kill anyone he saw. With a wave of his hand, King Qingyuan removed the defensive barrier in front of him. The defensive barrier turned into a golden pearl and fell into King Qingyuan's hand. Then, the pearl turned into a ray of light and stuck to King Qingyuan's body, turning into a golden robe with black edges. Elemental pearl. And it was a defensive type. That made it even more precious. Li Zongjiu. King Qingyuan looked at the young man in front of him and spat out these 3 words. Wei Pingjiang and the others, who were not far away, frowned. They weren't familiar with the name Li Zongjiu. Then, they looked at Heavenly Hatred Yidao. After all, Heavenly Hatred Yidao was only captured a few months ago. Maybe he had heard of Li Zongjiu's name in the underworld before. However, Heavenly Hatred Yidao also shook his head blankly, indicating that he had never heard of Li Zongjiu's name. Li Zongjiu was also very surprised that King Qingyuan actually knew his name. It seemed that his reputation wasn't small. That's right. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.